what they'll have to do, you've got the group right there on the right-hand side of the screen that really didn't move. They've kind of in that face-off situation. So now LAPD will likely try to be on the other side of them and kettle them again like they did with this group, and then maybe start affecting some arrests. We'll see, but that is a much smaller group that they're dealing with compared to what was there before.
I'm also curious, Susie and Mike, what if you have jury duty tomorrow and you'd like to be excused? You don't want to be driving into downtown Los Angeles tomorrow. Could you get out of it, or perhaps is our jury duty responsibilities being waived for now? That's another thing that
and I can look. I mean, the court's usually pretty good about putting stuff on their website about that. So let me see if I can look.
So if you do have jury duty tomorrow, Mike's going to look. Perhaps we'll get some information. I know a lot of people have to call into a number.
Sure.
You put in your juror PIN number, and it gives you an idea whether you have to show up or not. But I'm guessing some people would possibly just like to avoid downtown LA over the next few days.
I would imagine it would make a pretty good excuse under jury duty laws. I don't know what the rules are, but I would imagine something like this would be
You normally have to have a good excuse,
sure,
right,
exactly.
Susie, to avoid jury duty.
Right?
And a good reason for that. And most of the judges have heard every excuse in the book, so it's just best to show up if you can. But again, different circumstance tonight, different situation.
That's right. And, for the first time, I think we're seeing protesters outnumbered by police officers. You can see, I mean, wow, the number of just the patrol cars out there and their lights shining like that, just the lines and rows of them. You can really tell that the LAPD, they have this plan and they had it ready to go. And this is them showing their presence as well and saying, we mean what we say. We mean 8 o'clock. And you can see how fast 8 o'clock it really came, and it really did clear out the crowds. And we were thinking, it might take a little longer, but about 10 to 15 minutes into 8 o'clock is when we see the crowd really thin out. And the police officers, looks like they are dealing with one group of protesters who are still out there. And I imagine these protesters now, Juan, they know that the 8 o'clock curfew is in effect, as none of the other protesters that they were surrounded by earlier are out here no longer.
If Tom got that emergency alert while he was out there, it's based on geographical location. My guess is other people have as well. And maybe a lot of those people did scatter. They can come back tomorrow at their leisure after 6 a.m. Not a problem. But overnight hours, that is when we've seen cars set on fire, the Waymos set on fire, businesses broken into.
Right. And just really quickly, I want to point out what we're looking at right here. They are going to arrest these people. They just announced on the radio that there are about 25 people that they're going to start arresting. I see those groups of officers with the flex cuffs, or the zip ties, if you will, that are going to come in and do that. So LAPD has decided that this group right here that is in front of, I believe that's the LA Mall parking garage, they've decided that they are going to arrest them, and that should be happening soon. Their other group that's up top, I'm sure that they'll set up a plan to maybe take those guys into custody as well, although they'll have to get on the other side of them if they want to kettle them, or if they're going to be in a situation where they're just going to start pushing them down.
Are they voluntarily being arrested, Mike? Do you see any resistance there?
No, I don't see any resistance, but I will say that everything happened so fast that I don't know that these people fully realized that they were being kettled when they were being kettled, right? I mean, they obviously didn't leave right away when the first skirmish line came in, but when you watched how everything kind of happened, they moved in so fast and so, all at once, that I don't know that these people realized how quickly they were going to be boxed in. Not that it's an excuse, there's a curfew, that's the rules, what have you. But it happened all very, very quickly from the time that first skirmish line came in to the time that all of a sudden they're kettled.
That's a trick, right? It's kind of like, shock and awe really quickly, kind of surround the group, and then there's nowhere for them to go.
And sends the message, and I want to give you some numbers, because CBS News has actually been tracking these arrest numbers for us. And as of 6 o'clock tonight, in total, there have been 469 arrests.
Wow.
So the LAPD has made 378 arrests, the Sheriff's Department has made 7 arrests, and CHP has made 84. So those numbers, and I should point out, that's since Friday. So, but those numbers have grown significantly as the days.
Since the protest started.
Yeah, since the protest started on Friday, but the numbers have significantly grown day over day. Saturday was like 20-something. Sunday was another 20-something. And then even just today at one location near the 101 freeway, it was 69.
That's right.
Or 64 or something like that.
Yeah,
by the CHP. So they're significantly increasing those. A source told me that today is also the first day that they have dedicated arrest teams and dedicated booking teams to deal with the people that are being arrested.
And because there are so many people, Mike, where are they taking them? Is there a holding area? Is there a parking lot? Are there tents? Because most likely it's going to be a quick sort of like booking and release, right?
So right now they're bringing in, we saw the white buses from LAPD earlier. The Sheriff's Department has their buses as well. They are putting them on their buses and transporting them somewhere. I don't know, and I can try to find out, but I don't know if they're taking them to Men's Central and they're doing that process there, or LAPD's Metropolitan Jail, if they're doing that process there, or if there's a makeshift kind of situation that's going on where they're doing it. But regardless, I mean, it is unless you have other things going on, it is generally a cite and release type of situation.
Right.
But when you're talking about mass arrests, even if it's a cite and release, that's going to take a long time. You will be sitting on those buses for hours. You will be being processed
Just
for
the volume
hours.
of people, right, Mike?
Yes, just the volume of people and the length of time that will take them to get through that. I mean, if somebody is arrested right now at 8:30, I wouldn't foresee them getting out before 12, 1 a.m. by the time this is all
Probably
said
even
and
later
done.
than that, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Well, our Tom Waite is there on the ground where the people who we believe are about to be arrested are standing. Let's go out to him and get the very latest. Tom.
Yes, you've seen one, Mike. It does appear that there's some action about to happen there. It's kind of hard to see exactly. I mean, you can see better than I can because Anna's able to zoom for you. It's a little difficult for me to make out what's happening, but as Mike and all of you have pointed out, there's a bunch of police kind of blocking and boxing in these folks. I don't know if they know what's about to happen, and I'm kind of curious too, like, are they doing this deliberately? Do they want to be arrested in just sort of a show of civil disobedience? It's unclear to me, and it's hard for me to really, it's getting a bit darker, so it's hard for me to kind of get a sense of their body language or their demeanor. You probably can tell a bit better than I can, and I'm wondering too, just behind me on the other side, we'll spin around, this group of people over here, I wonder what action may be taken soon as well. I mean, they're definitely playing with fire over here in terms of, hanging out here after the curfew, and some of them are yelling things at the police and trying to antagonize them, I think. And some are being, again, all very peaceful at this point. No one has done anything like thrown anything at them. But it is your First Amendment right, I suppose, to chant and say things. I think just the question is, in these volatile situations, you don't want to be accused of inciting something and so forth. But people here, I think, sort of thinking in their heads, maybe they're expressing their First Amendment rights, being peaceful, and certainly they are, but there is a curfew, so now the question is, will police enforce this curfew with the same urgency that they did is in terms of moving in here and breaking up this crowd and sending people on their way. And I'm just looking over on the other side once again to see if I see any action here with any arrests. I don't see anybody being arrested quite yet. It's hard to tell. It looks like they're kind of just holding the position there in that spot that Mike was talking about by the parking garage. But I do see some action here with police kind of we're basically on this ledge above the street and kind of observing everything from this spot. Oh, you saw me. That's right on the. Oh, there's another group on the other side on the. I believe that's the north-south. That's the east side over there on Los Angeles and Temple. So yeah, there may be some arrests as well. So yeah, we're kind of in this like static kind of holding pattern right now, waiting to see what's next. I think it's pretty safe bet to know that there's probably another wave or column of officers not far from here, waiting to continue this operation. And as we've seen, that they do it, and they do it very quickly. To the point where it's like flash, bang, boom. They show up and all of a sudden, they swarm and they take action. So we'll see. I mean, this is a group out here that's being very persistent. Again, just chanting, doing nothing, in terms of nothing even remotely violent but the issue is there is a curfew. So, the question becomes how do police handle this?
Tom, as the National Guard stayed put for the most part, they were on the steps of the federal building pretty much all day.
Yeah, I have not seen them move from that spot. There's a large group of them in front of the building, but I don't see any movement. They've been just static, kind of standing there. yeah, the officers have been very nice to us up here and been very. Was it cool? Yeah, cool. Yeah, we were just given a direction we have a little more space to walk around. We're just trying to be good reporters over here and help it out as much as we can to not interfere with anything and just let people on either side, whether with police or with protesters, we want to let everything play out the way people choose and not get in anybody's way. So yeah, we'll just wait and see what the next step is here. But there is a contingent of people who are standing here in this area, and I am very curious to see what happens next. I will say this: it is, watching all this play out the last few days, it's sad in so many ways just to see the pain that people are going through in the city. I mean, just the anger, the frustration, the hurt, and to see our city in turmoil like this, to see all the graffiti, to see police in the streets in riot gear and people confronting them. I mean, it's a bummer, and I know that's the understatement of the year, but it's such a sad thing to see this level of tension and between our citizens, our authorities, and to see this play out in such a volatile way.
All right, Tom, we're going to give you a little bit of a break. We want to go to Lori Perez, also there in downtown Los Angeles, covering this first night of a curfew here in downtown LA. Lori, take it away.
Yeah, we're not too far from where Tom is. He's just about a block away in this direction. But I want to show you that the different kind of scene that's playing out just a block away. You can still see there are plenty of people still on the streets. I'm not sure, as Tom was saying, are they aware of the curfew? Are they deliberately just ignoring it? Or are they waiting to see what might go down? So there are an awful lot of people still on the sidewalks here. And then, very busy traffic. It seems we did see people kind of scurrying to their cars, likely aware of the curfew and trying to get to where they need to be and out of this curfew area as quickly as they can. We saw a lot of people, in fact, who we had seen at the Interfaith Vigil up at Grand Park, people who were still carrying pamphlets from that vigil, obviously headed towards their parking spots and towards their cars so that they can get out of the city in order to comply with the curfew. But here at this location where we are, you can see a lot of people just milling about, taking videos apparently, and just look at this guy. He's up on the telephone pole, Mojo. You see this? This kid is up on the light pole. Obviously not a safe situation for that, but they're just kind of lingering. For sure, word has spread about the curfew, but for whatever reason, they are hanging around and not going home as they should be. Across the way, you can see at the back of City Hall, there are plenty of law enforcement officers standing on the patio there. They have been there for the last couple of days when we have been to here in downtown Los Angeles covering the protests, and then later in the night covering some of the unrest after the protests. So they've been here as we have been for days, and they are overseeing this, kind of watching, waiting to see perhaps if LAPD will eventually start to arrest these people, because clearly there are lots of people. In fact, some people still coming down in this direction. So, it's interesting to see this, and we'll have to see what happens in the next couple of minutes here. But a lot of activity and not quite the clearing out that we anticipated we would see at this time, because it's what is it, 8:30? Yeah, so 8:36. So for sure, if these people were trying to get home, they would have made their move.
Lori, have you heard anything from law enforcement there on the ground telling those protesters or people milling about, as you mentioned, to go home? The curfew is in effect?
I haven't. We've heard over the last couple of days when there have been dispersal orders and that kind of thing, we've heard them using the megaphones and making announcements saying you need to get out of here, you need to go home, you don't have to stay here, but you can't, you can't stay here, but you got to go somewhere other than this place. We have not heard that yet. I would anticipate that they will start to do that if these people do not start getting out of the way. But, I heard you mentioning Tom got that alert. We got the alert as well. Our security guards also got the alert indicating, hey, if you're in downtown Los Angeles, there is a curfew in effect. You need to get going. I'm expecting that these people would have already gotten that. But again,
Well,
they are
Lori-
not choosing to comply.
Lori, just got a text message from our Tom Wade out there. He said that they are making announcements where he is. Officers have gone on megaphones and they've started making announcements. So if it's not clear, if they didn't get the emergency alert on their phone, clearly now officers are making it pretty clear. He says they're doing it again now. So most likely we may see some more movement. Do you hear anything, Lori?
Yeah, I'm just starting to hear it. Like I said, we're only about a block away from where
Right,
Tom
right.
is, so I can just barely hear it, but I can hear, what sounds like people talking over a megaphone. That's a familiar kind of sound. And we're seeing there were some motorcycles that were up on the patios here. They're coming off, so they are definitely scattering at this point. It's hard to tell, how far people are willing to take it. A lot of people like to think they're tough until, the police start coming at them with cuffs, ready to cuff them. So,
You can hear that now.
Yep. They're saying now, if you do not leave the area now, you will be arrested. So, like I said, people like to be tough, but when LAPD starts coming at you with those cuffs, we'll see how tough they are.
Looks like those announcements being made over a helicopter or a loudspeaker there while people are on the ground still milling about, as Lori was talking about. Some of these people, protesters, but also some people who are just walking around downtown LA right now and getting caught up in this. We can hear that announcement being made. Lori, that's from a chopper?
That's from that white SUV that's driving up the street here.
Oh, yeah, you can see that too.
They have some sort of a projection device.
Sure. And this is what we anticipated, when these curfew orders were announced earlier today during a news conference by Mayor Karen Bass. We anticipated that there would be sort of this grace period, if you will, for the protesters to have time to get out of downtown LA. And then after that, these announcements now being made by the LAPD as they drive around saying, it's time to get out of here. We've given you 40 minutes now.
Oh, you know what? A correction. That was coming from that helicopter. There's a chopper overhead, and they are the ones who are making that announcement.
Oh, yeah, we see it now.
Flying right over City Hall there, Lori. Hard to miss that helicopter there. Again, making an announcement that downtown LA is now under curfew that's in effect till 6 a.m. Of course, if you're a downtown LA resident, you live there, a business owner, and you must have proper ID to show law enforcement. You will be allowed to stay. But if you have no business there, you are being urged to leave the area, to go home. You're welcome to come back at 6 a.m. to continue your protesting activities there outside the federal building. But again, the mayor's saying today that downtown LA has just been overrun with graffiti. Of course, we've been talking about these 23 businesses that were looted over the last couple of days, and of just the economic impact that all this is having to the downtown LA area. Just the cleanup that's been ongoing the last couple of days and will continue for the next weeks.
I just saw City Hall in Lori's shot, and that's one of the places that was tagged during all of this. Really sad just to hear that. What's happening in the midst of people trying to protest peacefully. Let's go back out now to our Tom Wade, who's live there on the ground. Tom, any movement with those protesters?
Yeah, it looks like a few of them are now leaving. It seems that some are heeding the warning. They're backing off a bit. Lori, she and I have, she has a great perspective from where she is. She's probably seeing these people now retreating back away from where I am. She's closer to City Hall, and so we're sort of watching them move back now. So we'll see if now that sorry. I don't know if you can hear that, but they are making that announcement over and over again that if people don't leave, they will be arrested. And they've repeated that message over the bullhorn several times now over the last few minutes. And it does seem that people are leaving. There's obviously still a few people left, so we'll see if police here on scene are willing to let the crowd continue to scatter, which they do appear to be doing. They're making the announcement once again.
What are they saying, Tom?
Yep. I know, I'm trying to hear it. You'll be subject to arrest. Leave now.
Okay,
So
they're
yeah,
being very clear.
it is. It's a bit difficult to hear, but yeah. But you know what? If you look, the crowd now is over where Lori is. You know, maybe you want to go over to her because that's where all the people are flowing over to right at this very second, I think.
Lori, if you're listening to Tom, is that the case?
The street towards us, away from Tom's location, and away from that line of law enforcement officers. So clearly, they heard that as you have and as we have heard, that saying, you know, leave or you will be subject to arrest. And it does seem, you can see, it does seem that people are walking up Temple Street. Up Temple Street is there's much more parking in that direction. A guy putting on a little show here in the intersection before he leaves. But yeah, it does seem like the bulk of people are moving up Temple Street away from this location. Perhaps finally going to heed the warning from police.
Well, I can't imagine that the LAPD will wait that much longer before they actually start making arrests and actually, you know, taking more action, just because of the fact that, you know, this curfew is in place. They didn't just do it just to get protesters out of downtown LA. They said, you know, this is actually, you know, it's law right now. This is actually law. So if the reason why they can make an arrest is because of the fact that this is law, the curfew right now. It is a misdemeanor to violate a curfew. And, you know, if you're caught doing that, I mean, they can arrest you legally. You know, oftentimes you see, you know, the cite and release kind of situation. But, you know, in this case, and they're saying they're going to make arrests. You will be arrested if you stay around this area and you do not belong here. If you do not live here, if you do not work in the area, you cannot prove that you're a resident, then you need to be going home by now. And it looks like a lot of the crowd did disperse, as Lori and Tom were both pointing out. But as you can see, people are still saying and defying those orders and knowing well that they will be arrested, Juan.
Indeed, they're going to be arrested. And of course, as Susie was saying, there's no need for dispersal orders or anything like that once that curfew is in effect. And they are giving you the option here. They're once again making announcements from the chopper that if you do not leave, you'll be subject to arrest. We did see some earlier acts of civil disobedience when people were trying to get onto the freeway there. They were pushed back. They allowed themselves to be arrested. And the penalties for this type of acts of civil disobedience, I checked out in the area, Los Angeles, all depends on the offense. Most likely you'll have to do some sort of community service. There's some sort of fine that goes with it. And based on just how serious it got, if maybe you pushed an officer or you resisted, that could possibly lead to some jail time. But in most cases, it looks like these people will be arrested, booked, fingerprinted, their photos taken, and they'll be let go. But for some, it doesn't seem to matter, really. I think they're just going to push it to the limit, as Lori was saying earlier. It's like, how far will they go? And look at this from SkyCal. We're now seeing that line of officers walking down the street, Mike.
Yeah, that's actually on the other side of the freeway. So Tom and Lori are back on the other side. This is north in almost the Chinatown area that John is looking at. And there's a very small number of people that were here. You see them locked arms right there, those 4 people. And then you got a couple more kind of straggling about here that will likely be taken into custody. And it looks, just based on the way that they're standing and, you know, holding tight to that police line, that's probably what they are willing to do for their cause in this situation and be taken into custody. I can tell you, I talked to both the LAPD, LA County Sheriffs, and CHP about the arrest process. CHP says if you get picked up by them, you go to jail. LAPD is saying for now they're trying to do some field processing where they can basically try to give you the ticket and let you go if you don't have anything else going on. But Sheriff says they're doing transports, and they're doing it for the allied agencies. So if you end up in a Sheriff's transport bus or you end up in an LAPD bus, it is more than likely you are going to a jail facility, which would be LAPD's Metropolitan Jail in downtown, should they need it. Certainly they've got Twin Towers, IRC, Inmate Reception Center over there for the Sheriff's jail complex. But if you get arrested and you end up in one of these transport vans, you are more than likely going to end up in a jail, not necessarily in a jail cell, but in a jail to be processed, booked, and then eventually released.
Right, and what is the capacity too for these, Mike? They're going to be at their limits over the next few days if people continue to get arrested.
Well, now that's what we see when we saw back in 2020 is where then these people end up waiting on the buses, right? And then there were lawsuits that stemmed from that. There were lawsuits that stemmed from people that got arrested that had to sit on buses for hours and hours and hours that filed lawsuits saying that they weren't able to use the restroom, they weren't able to do, other things, they couldn't breathe. People said that they were, very claustrophobic in there. If you've ever seen the inside of a sheriff's transport bus, it's not
very
a school bus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very built out thing where there couldn't be even individual, cells, if you will, within the bus. So they're not comfortable places to be. And if you get picked up and you end up in one of those, it is very likely that you will be on that bus for an extended period of time while you get processed.
Mike, I'm curious with this unified command and so many other agencies coming to help Los Angeles, who runs the show here? How do you get the word out to Ventura County Sheriff or LA County Sheriff, LAPD, so that everyone's on the same page?
So Chief Jim McDonnell said that he is, obviously this is within the city of Los Angeles, the city limits. So LAPD is from what I have been told, is running the show, if you will. So LAPD is in charge, but they are having the mutual aid. So the way the mutual aid works is LAPD, Chief Jim McDonnell made the request to Sheriff Robert Luna. Sheriff Luna then lent, as of Sunday, 100 deputies to the LAPD, and then Sheriff Luna is actually tasked with going outside of his department, outside of LAPD, and getting those outside agencies. So Chief Jim McDonnell and his department is focusing on the response. They're focusing on the crowd and how it needs to be handled and dealt with. The sheriff is handling getting allied agencies to come in and help. So it is Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna, who is in his department, that are reaching out to Ventura County Sheriff, that are reaching out to Santa Barbara County Sheriff, that are reaching out to Torrance and Glendale and Burbank, and he is coordinating that mutual aid response, and then they'll tie in with the LAPD, and then they'll conduct that operation. Now we have radio channels where they can all communicate with each other. I think it's the Claymars channels where they can all talk to each other on one frequency and handle this. And there you see in the shot on the left-hand side of the screen, there's one of the transport buses, and that's one of the LAPD transport buses that is being brought in to start effecting these arrests.
Well, incredible to know that Sheriff Luna is responsible for so much, right? You have the LAPD running his show, but he is getting all that mutual aid from the different agencies, from different counties. Just an incredible job that he's doing there.
Yeah, and really just an intense amount of law enforcement officers that are here. I mean, a lot of law enforcement officers that are here. And the normal chain of events would then go, if local wasn't enough, if all of the outside agencies that came in weren't enough to help, then the sheriff would request the governor to activate the National Guard. But as we've pointed out, that can't happen because the National Guard has been taken over and federalized.
Right.
So the governor doesn't have control over the National Guard. So, it's not an option for our local authorities to ask the National Guard to come help because the governor doesn't have control over it.
And Chief McDonnell's saying today that he doesn't feel the need at this point to go to that level.
Right.
So certainly good news there that the chief of the LAPD doesn't see the need to enhance it to quite the military level here in California.
They're handling it tonight, right?
Tonight's response is certainly a point proven with that.
Absolutely. All right, as you see there, and as Mike just pointed out, the LAPD bus that usually holds the people who have been arrested after these protests will be held in there, is coming down the street, meaning that we believe the LAPD is about to make some arrests as the mounted unit goes down the street here. Let's go back out now to our Tom Waite, who's live there on the ground with what we saw earlier, two factions of protesters who are being approached by police there. Have they moved forward? Have they moved them out of the way? What's going on, Tom?
You know what? Here's the thing. Okay, they're moving the bus, but I would say take Lori's camera because there's a lot of action going on over there. Lori should take it from here.
Okay.
Yeah, by horseback and on foot as well. Lori, if you can hear us, tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, so they have just very quickly moved in our direction. Whoops, and they are shooting. Whoa, okay, I don't want that. We're trying to get out of the line of fire because, they are aggressively telling people that they need to get out of the way. They need to go home. They are, in fact, enforcing this curfew. They have aggressively moved down Temple because there were a lot of stragglers there. We're media. Where do you want me to go?
Go this way.
Okay, looks like Lori's getting some directions from officers out there where she and her photographer can be. Obviously a very fluid situation for our crew members out there who have been really trying to give us these pictures and give us the feel of what is really going on out there, but at the same time, sometimes they get too mixed up, right? You know, oftentimes this week we've been watching our reporters out there giving us these incredible reports, but also you know, suffering some of the consequences of what's been happening with the protests, you know, tear gas in their eyes and pepper balls being thrown their way. And we just have to really give it to our reporters and photographers who have been out there tirelessly trying to get us these stories as they happen.
And we don't want our crews to go between the officers and protesters, because that, of course, puts our crews in danger there. But we're trying our best there, as we saw in. Lori, let's go back to you now.
Yeah, I just want to explain what happened. So, I mean, very clearly, I'm doing a live shot, you know, with 2 security guards. I have a microphone, I have my press pass, etc. And despite that, you know, law enforcement, I mean, there's just a lot going on here. I mean, I'm not trying to assign blame, but even despite the fact that it was very clear what I was doing, they were still, you could hear me saying, where do you want me to go? And they were saying, go home, go home. So that just gives you an idea of the temperature of the atmosphere here, because, you know, they're trying to enforce the curfew. They're trying to clear these streets, and it can get confusing, and it's dark out, and you know, things are hectic. So now I'm actually quite some distance from where Michael Johnson, the photographer, is. He's still back in the original location where I was giving a live shot before, and then I kind of retreated because once they started shooting those less lethal weaponry, I didn't want to get shot, frankly. So I kind of retreated, and he went in a different direction, and now we're kind of separated, unfortunately. But I just wanted to explain what was happening. I could still see from my location that the crowd, unfortunately, many started to seem to head towards the 101, which is not a good situation. And I could see people running at this point. And they're being followed by LAPD very quickly. So it seems like something is going down further down the street. I'm going to try and get a little bit closer to that. Still staying safe, of course. I'm going to try and get over there just so I can get a better vantage point.
We appreciate you explaining what's going on there, Lori. We're glad you're staying safe, as well as our Tom Wade out there. And again, things changing moment by moment. We're about 1 hour into this curfew that's going to be in place till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And Susie, we can tell over the last hour or so that we've been on the air that the crowds have definitely thinned out. They move around quite a bit, but it looks like there's a lot less people on the streets right now.
That's right. The LAPD definitely showing their presence tonight and making it known that this curfew is in effect. This is not a joke. They actually went over the loudspeakers, over their announcements, making announcements actually over the loudspeakers from a chopper not too long ago. And that was actually the first time they did that. About 10, 15 minutes ago was when they did that. They actually gave the crowd quite some time to get out of there and disperse. And it looked like most of the crowd did disperse. But as Tom and Lori were both showing us, people are still there protesting in downtown LA and sometimes throwing things at officers still. So definitely a situation that the LAPD will want to handle tonight because of the fact that they know that this curfew is in effect from 8 o'clock until 6 in the morning. And obviously these protesters know that now, as they have heard from loudspeakers, they have heard the announcements. It is not a secret anymore. The secret is out. You know, it is clear that this is an announcement that was made earlier today, and it is certainly in effect now. And in downtown LA tonight, though, we're still seeing and watching these protesters still mill about in downtown LA tonight, even if those announcements did go out.
And Susie, we're watching them. They're northbound Main Street right now after crossing back over the 101 freeway here. This is kind of the group you see here with law enforcement that have just moved in. LAPD has been able to very, very quickly kind of get themselves into the positions they need to be in to make this crowd move. And every time they do, the crowd gets smaller and smaller and smaller, which, as we've talked about over the last several nights, is exactly what law enforcement is hoping for. They are hoping to get these groups down to as small of a number as they can. John, if you could show us that group that I believe is under the spotlight of the LAPD chopper. Yeah, right there. So they're moving here. This is probably the largest, group that we've got left, and they are very splintered at this point too. You can see a lot of distance in between them as we are almost into the full first hour of this curfew that has been set up in the downtown LA area after Mayor Karen Bass around 6-ish tonight declared a local state of emergency and decided that a curfew would be necessary to keep businesses, to keep people and everybody safe in the downtown LA area, as these law enforcement officers have been struggling over the last several nights to keep things peaceful. We've seen cars set on fire multiple nights. We've seen tagging, a great degree of tagging all across the LA area. But still, as we've seen those in the last several nights, Mayor Bass is very strong and very fast to point out that this is still a very small fraction of the city of Los Angeles. She referred to it in her press conference as 1 square mile in the Los Angeles area out of many, many, many miles and geographically large location that the city is. This is a pretty small relative area to where we are talking about here as this LAPD helicopter continues to follow these protesters. As both of our crews down there don't see any protesters left because LAPD has moved in so quickly to push these people through. The clock struck 8, and within about a couple of minutes of that, the LAPD cruisers came in and started moving people out. They are arresting some people. John, can we go back and look at where that arrest location right in front of the federal building there? I believe it was the Los Angeles Mall where they had brought in one of those buses, those transport buses that you see right there, that white bus in the center of your screen, and they will start doing those arrests. The people that they had gotten kettled in that area right in the entrance of the parking garage of the Los Angeles Mall have been arrested or will be arrested. They're in the process of doing that right now. LAPD decided that about 25 people in that area will be taken into custody now as a result of this. We're going to begin KCAL News at 9.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to KCAL News at 9. I'm Pat Harvey.
I'm Rutabaga Shabazi. SkyCal over downtown LA right now, with parts of the area now under a curfew.
And as Mike said, a curfew is now in effect for 1 square mile of downtown LA.
And that's where KCAL News reporter Tom Waite is with a look at if people are listening to that order. Tom.
Yeah, some very intense action going on here just outside of the federal building. You can see Mike Rogers was just talking about this, the arrests that are being made right outside of the federal complex. These people have been sitting here in this penned-in area for some time now. I would say at least an hour right after the curfew was announced. They apparently did not heed the orders to leave, and now they are being arrested. The van, the bus, the white bus that they're going to be transported in is just a little bit down the road there, right next to the federal, right in front of the federal building complex. And now they are beginning to make those arrests and bring people into custody. This is a spot where there was some intense and very furious action by police. They swarmed this area as there were a number of peaceful protesters that were here in the area, but then many of them did not comply with the order to leave when it was 8 p.m. And now you're seeing the result of that. Many of these people now being arrested, and they'll be processed, as Mike was describing. So we're just kind of waiting to see how this plays out. It's a very tense situation. A number of these officers aren't even sure who we are, so we're trying to keep all of our identification. I'm holding my mic flag up with the CBS logo on it as clearly as I can so they can see us. They're obviously in a very serious tactical situation here where there's just no margin for error. At one point we were between some protesters and the mounted unit, where protesters from behind us, a couple of them, started throwing things at a officer who was mounted on horseback, and the horse reacted, and it was scary. We didn't know, it jumped back, and then a line of police aimed their less than lethal weapons in the direction of where that was coming, which of course was our direction because the people who did that were behind us. They cleared the area very quickly. Officers got up. We're on a kind of raised plaza level above the parking garage right now, and we're watching the arrests now play out. And you can see just the amount of officers here on scene, and now you can see people being told to put their hands up against that wall, and obviously the arrest will ensue from here. This was also a spot where there was a number of people lingering. police kept making announcements over and over and over again, telling people to leave. They finally sort of ran from the area as the officers surged forward, and very dramatic to see this all play out. And I'm sure this sort of shock and awe effect of this is part of the operation, right? It's very sudden, it's jarring, it's intense, and it's meant to, sort of subdue people or to force them out of the area, and it seems to have worked. There were no major violent incidents here. There were, as I said, projectiles that were thrown at police. We did not see police respond in this spot with any tear gas, or I didn't personally witness any less than lethal weapons fired, any rubber bullets, nothing like that where I am. I think that was not the case over where Lori is, about a block from me. I think she was in the area of where something was fired. It's not clear what. We'll hear from her, of course, in just a second. But yeah, we are just kind of watching right now, police kind of securing that area that you're seeing on your screen. That is the let's see, north, southwest. That's the east side of the intersection at Los Angeles and Temple, and it looks like there were some people lingering there as well. We'll see how that plays out. But right now, we're watching as they are staging that bus and getting ready to take people into custody.
Okay, Tom, thank you. And you were mentioning Lori Perez's location. Let's go to her now.
Yeah, she's also in downtown LA, as Tom mentioned, about a block away from him. So, Lori, how are things looking an hour into the curfew where you are? We can hear the sirens.
That's right. And, I would just echo what Tom said. I mean, that movement of the people out of that area was coordinated as any police movement that I've seen over the last few days. And I just want to show you the sheer number of police cars. You see this line of police officers here, but look there are police cars lined up for as far as we can see here. We are at Main and Aliso, and that is a line of police cars that are staged right near the detention center, which has been the focus of these protests for the last couple of days. So they are really setting up a perimeter around that. They do not want anyone getting anywhere near that building. And we came down Main Street from our location because we were following the bulk of the protesters, or the stragglers, who were moved out by police, and they started heading toward the 101. As Mike was saying, they crossed over the 101, and we were kind of following it, and we're following in their footsteps. I think that they are now probably located somewhat, judging from where the chopper is, the searchlight is shining down. They're kind of in that area of that Chevron station where we were 2 days ago. So, moving down towards Chinatown, down towards Union Station and that area. But, it was quite something to see the police kind of make a move, and in coordinated effort, just more march forward towards that crowd. That crowd got moving, and to Tom's point, luckily there was we didn't see at least any confrontation, any big confrontation, physical confrontation between the crowd and the police. So that was good to see, and they have since moved out of the downtown LA area and more towards Chinatown. We'll of course be following them to see what ensues in that area. But it's very successful so far in getting them out of the area where they were, right around City Hall and where we were just a short time ago. Guys?
All right. Thanks so much, Lori. And good to see it. And obviously they are achieving what they set out to do, which is certainly thin out the area, get people away from the area. So if anybody has a mind to come in and create some havoc tonight, then they could easily spot those people because the crowds are no longer there.
Let's go to Mike now and talk about for us exactly what this area is, this parameter. We heard Mayor Bass earlier talk about how it's 1 square mile out of 502 square miles in the city of Los Angeles. Tell us exactly where this is, Mike.
Yeah, and I'll ask Mike Parrott in the booth to put up my computer in an inset box here. We can look at it, or there it is right now. So I've highlighted it for you. So basically your parameters here are the 10 to the south. To the north, you have where the 110 and the 5 meet. To the east, you have essentially the 5 freeway to the 110 freeway. So it encompasses all of traditional downtown LA, the Fashion District, the Skid Row area, Arts District, the Civic Center, Chinatown, all of that. And I also want to point out the impact that the curfew is already having. Tonight, the LA Phil canceled their concert at the Walt Disney Concert Hall, posting on Facebook saying it was because of the curfew that is in effect. So we had another viewer reach out and say, what about the Dodgers game? Well, if you look, Dodger Stadium is just outside of the curfew area there, so that likely will not be impacted as a result of the curfew, but there is still, impacts to this. The concert hall canceled, businesses in the area are likely closing down early just to be, compliant with that. I mean, you certainly would think you're not gonna have a ton of customers coming into the area if you are in the curfew zone. So a lot of impacts, and LAPD taking it very, very seriously tonight as John and SkyCal is kind of doing an overall view for us and looking at where things are. And I'll ask him here in just a second to kind of see if we can see any of that crowd that was on the move. They were going down near the, see a spotlight right there, John, on the ground. I don't know if that's them over there, but they had moved across the 101 freeway, as Lori was mentioning. And so we'll have to see if they pop back up. But yeah, big impacts tonight with the curfew.
Is LA Live in that curfew area?
Yep, LA Live, Crypto.com Arena, Peacock Theater, all of that.
Well, I mean, we don't have any basketball games that are being, unfortunately, just had to throw that out there. But at the same time, people still enjoyed LA Live. So that does make you wonder, maybe they'll have to close down a lot of their operations at 8 p.m., the restaurants and things of that nature.
Yeah, and there are, let's see, I'm looking at Crypto.com Arena just to see if there's any events there. It doesn't look like there's any events for quite a while, but that's Walt Disney Concert Hall that John's showing us in the center of the screen there where the concert was canceled. But you also think about too, I just lost my train of thought, I'm so sorry. But yeah, Crypto.com Arena doesn't have any events, but what I was gonna say is we just had the Tony Awards on Sunday night. If there was a curfew in effect then, how would that have played out? So, I mean, downtown LA is home to a lot of big events, and, we've at least the LA Phil saying that they're stopping it tonight.
You wonder then if people have tickets to certain venues, if they get stopped by police, they can show them, say, well, I'm here, because Mayor Bass says, well, if you don't live here, you work here, or work here, if you don't have any business here, but if you said, well, yeah, I have tickets to this particular event, they might reconsider?
If the event is still going on, if they didn't cancel it. Yeah, and I think too, we saw this a lot in 2020 when there was a curfew that was issued then as well. I think that law enforcement is while certainly they have a legal right to stop you if you're in the curfew area, there's possibly too that they're really looking for who they're looking for, right? I mean, they're pretty targeted with this operation here as we look at the people being loaded up onto that LAPD bus.
Yeah, and we have been watching them from above and from the ground, loading up that bus. It looks like they're holding them against the wall. It seems peaceful as far as we can see from here, and then it looks like they're just going to fill that bus and transport those people. But haven't encountered a lot of resistance as far as we've seen, right?
No, not at all. I mean, it's been pretty peaceful, and I got to be honest with you. I think that the way right around 8 o'clock, the way that LAPD swarmed the area, I think caught a lot of people off guard. I mean, it was the fastest and the most high intensity amount of officers that I have seen since we've started this on Friday night. I mean, they were there like lightning, and they were there fast. They made moves fast, and the crowd, as soon as they started to show up, the crowd immediately started to scatter. And then you had a couple people hanging out right here that are now being taken into custody. And then you had the other group that started pushing away, where we saw Tom and we saw Lori.
Well, we had Mayor Bass on our air last night at 11:30. So you have to think that either overnight or this morning that they made these strategic plans for LAPD to show up the way they did earlier today, get those people off the 101 freeway right away, and knew they were going to have this curfew go into effect and how they were going to activate it or put it into action. And actually, can you pinpoint the time they started arresting people? It was after 8 o'clock.
Last night or tonight?
No, tonight.
No, tonight. Yeah. It was. Technically, this group is the first group that they are that is taken into custody. They decided that they were going to arrest that group probably around 8:20. 8:20, 8:30, and that was after that group, to be honest, didn't leave. I mean, they had the opportunity to leave. The rest of the group left, but there's always the group of people that just kind of wants to, put themselves in front of the line of officers. And in this situation, it was not been like nights past where you stand here long enough and then you can go away. Now it's you're here, you're going to go to jail.
And they have reason, because you certainly are breaking the law. This is more than a dispersal order.
Right.
This is curfew and you're not supposed to be here, period.
And, while we were on the air with Tom, he got a wireless emergency alert to his phone because he's within the area. So he got the alert on his phone. There's an LAPD helicopter that was been making announcements on the PA system as they do orbits over the crowd. So it's not that you don't know. You obviously see what's going on here. You're getting the alerts on your phone. They're making announcements on loudspeakers. Even when Lori was at that interfaith vigil, they were talking about it there as well. So people are well aware that there is a curfew.
Okay, well, we're continuing to watch this and we'll keep an eye on it.
Well, yeah, we will keep an eye on downtown for you with SkyCal. But now let's go to Santa Ana, another SoCal city that has seen some, at times, violent protests.
The National Guard surrounding the federal building there, and today local leaders showing their support to the immigrant community. KCAL's Nicole Comstock is live in Santa Ana tonight. Nicole, a much different scene than last night. You were there last night as well.
Yeah, you guys, a lot quieter out here tonight. We've seen a lot less protesters in the street, a lot fewer people out here just adding to the scene and causing problems like we saw last night. We do still have the National Guard and some city police out here protecting the federal building tonight. And the presence of the National Guard, that's one of the things that the protesters we did see today were taking issue with. Take a look. Quarreling between protesters in Santa Ana briefly hit a boiling point Tuesday, with people in the crowd screaming and shoving each other, at odds about the presence of National Guard members. Some say they're just here doing their jobs.
They cannot do anything.
I fought for the freedom of speech.
It was a far cry from the chaos that unfolded here Monday night, when a few people in the crowd threw powerful firecrackers and mortar-style fireworks directly at local police in the street. Police responded by launching tear gas and pepper spray rounds their way, slowly dispersing the crowd over several hours. The initial intention to protest federal immigration raids happening locally, overshadowed by those who came to cause trouble.
I just ask you, don't take the bait. They are trying to provoke us into making sure they paint us as being the villains, not the victims. We know we're here for our parents. We know we're here for working families and working people that are criminals.
Orange County leaders held a news conference to let the local immigrant community know they're supported and to condemn a militarized response to protests.
We're capable and we have the ability and the resources to be able to provide whatever necessary protection we have for our community.
The police chief who denounced the vandalism and violence last night said he would rather have his own police force de-escalating tensions in the community stemming from the raids. As cleanup crews work to repair the damage left behind, the National Guard continues to protect the federal building into the night, and police once again line up in riot gear for what could be another long night in the street. And we're hearing that about 11 people were arrested in Santa Ana last night. We're not seeing any of that taking place tonight, although we do hear some fireworks in the distance, so we're probably going to move and go check that out in a couple of minutes. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thanks so much, Nicole. We're going to go back to Tom Waite. Nicole's, you saw that live shot. She's so quiet where she is tonight, Tom. And obviously where you are, a lot more quieter than it has been. But I see, is everyone gone where you are?
Not everyone. There are still, there's a lot of officers over here, and it's hard for me to tell what department they are with because it looks like a different uniform. Oh, and those are federal. Okay. All right. So yeah, they were. Okay. These are federal officers who are on this. Yeah, they might be. I mean, yeah, it looks like that might be the Guard. And that is the first time I've seen them out walking and, in the field, so to speak. I mean, we've not seen them leave the steps. So I don't know if they're out here because there's something, down to the east there. Their police are moving and quickly over there. I'm not sure why.
Well, sometimes, Tom, they do play a support role for police officers if police officers are making arrests. Earlier today, apparently the Guard came out and protected the officers, formed a line around the officers while the local authorities made arrests. So I wonder if there's something like that happening again.
Okay. Yeah, that could be it, Ruta Bay. What's crazy is I don't really. Oh, hey, I see a few people. There are a few stragglers there. So yeah, maybe that's why they're providing that support, Ruta Bay. That could be a good point. I don't know. They look like they're running down the street now. So I don't know if police are going to charge down there after them. There's another SUV here with officers riding on the outside of it. Yeah, so that could be it. Also, there was some more, this whole area, I'm sure, if for folks just joining us, this was, a lot of people here, a crowd of people here, and, they dispersed it with great haste. And then over to our, you're looking now at our screen here. This is where officers are arresting people who would not leave initially, and they box them in here. And we're kind of waiting to see how many people they're arresting here. But you can see they have people against the wall. They're putting them, some of them in cuffs, I saw, and leading them off into the white van, the white bus over there that will then transport them. But yeah, much quieter scene here. But man, looking at this building, it's just covered in graffiti. So yeah, we'll let you go back, and we'll keep you posted on any new developments here.
Tom, thank you. And there was discussion earlier today about the National Guard protecting local officers, but also protecting ICE agents as they made arrests in Southern California and Los Angeles, which was an expansion of their duties.
Correct.
They had been brought here just to protect federal property and federal officers and officials. But today, for the first time, they were actually playing a support role with ICE agents as they made those arrests.
And you wonder if that had anything to do with the conversation with maybe the Trump administration, since he's the one that federalized those officers, the Guard in particular, as far as their duties. And I think there has to be something that is agreed upon as to their exact role, and for them to actually come out in the community. So maybe that's what's happening there. But thank goodness we haven't heard about any instances where there has been a real show of force or where they've had to use force.
Okay, we want to take a look at what happened in Chicago and New York, because these protests aren't just limited to Los Angeles. Tonight, protesters went out into the streets over ICE raids taking place. This is New York, where police have stopped people from getting close to a federal building. Arrests were made there, and people were tossing water on officers. Also in Chicago, police clashed with protesters and arrests were made. People also tagging vehicles there.
Well, just hours ago, Governor Newsom made a virtual address in which he did not hold back his thoughts on President Trump.
Trump is pulling a military dragnet all across Los Angeles, well beyond his stated intent to just go after violent and serious criminals. His agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses. That's just weakness masquerading as strength.
He hammered President Trump for taking hold of the National Guard and sending more troops into the region, saying it made the situation worse. Newsom said California may be the first for this, but he claims it won't be the last. Now, we have reached out to the White House for comment, but have not heard back. And we continue our breaking news tonight in the Inland Empire. Believe it or not, an evacuation order was in effect just south of Apple Valley tonight as fire crews work to get the upper hand on the ranch fire. Being evacuated tonight, the area from Milpas Drive to High Road south of Highway 18. So far, 2,000 acres have burned.
And more breaking news tonight in Burbank. Evacuation notices and warnings have been lifted there after a brush fire broke out in the hills above Burbank. Forward progress of the Bethany fire has been stopped at 8 acres. Fire crews will continue to monitor the area through the night. No word tonight on what sparked the flames.
All right, we're going to go back to our, well, we will in just a minute, but first we do have some important things to talk about. It was a warm day here in Southern California, but a nice day.
Check in with Danny in our next weather. Danny, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you girls too. My goodness. Hi, Ruta Bay. Hi, Pat. Yeah, we had the sunshine today, and we're going to see much the same going into tomorrow. So let's get you ready for your Wednesday. Here's a look at our temperatures today, you guys. Yes, it was all about the heat out there. I mean, it was a warm day here in Southern California. 104 degrees in Lancaster, San Bernardino, lower 90s, Burbank, 82, downtown LA, 81, and Newport Beach, 68 degrees. I mean, a crazy difference between our beach communities in the upper 60s and Lancaster at 104 whopping degrees. Now, we're going to see more heat going into tomorrow, but it's not going to be as hot as what we saw today. So we have big high pressure that's been building in. It's going to bring us another warm day going into our Wednesday. Stubborn coastal clouds, they'll stick around. We're warmer inland and then cooler by the end of the week, all because of this guy. So we're tracking a low pressure system that's going to start moving down, and this is going to push this high pressure system out of the way, and this is going to bring us a little bit of cooling going into our Thursday and our Friday. Before getting to that, though, we're talking another day in the 90s, mid-90s in San Bernardino, 70 for Laguna Beach, so a 20 to 25 degree difference out there, more marine layer clouds. And by the time we get to the weekend, you guys were cranking up the temperatures again. Saturday and Sunday, we're talking low to mid 80s, and it's a big weekend. It's Father's Day. So tomorrow morning, before getting to that, let's talk clouds. Clouds are rolling on in. So we've got June gloom to start our day, clouds pushing into our valleys, and then they clear away pretty quickly, but slow, if any, clearing for our beaches. By 11 o'clock, we've got sunshine in the valleys, some clouds hanging around for our beaches, and then we'll see plenty of sunshine once we get to the afternoon. Low temperatures tomorrow, low 60s first thing in the morning, mostly cloudy in Burbank, but not for long. We get to 11 o'clock, mid 70s, and then lower 80s once we get to the afternoon. So 99 in Lancaster, not as hot as today, but still above average, low 80s in downtown Los Angeles. And as you can see going into this upcoming weekend, a little bit warmer out there in the low to mid 80s. For folks in the valleys, we've got 90s this weekend. And finally, in the Inland Empire, slightly cooler Thursday, Friday, and then we're talking mid to upper 90s by Saturday and Father's Day on Sunday. Pat and Rudabeh.
Oh, thanks so much, Danny. Boy, a lot of 90s on the board there. Okay, we're going to take another look at downtown LA, where curfew has been in effect since 8 o'clock, so almost an hour and a half. And we understand from Mike Rogers, they really started placing people under arrest at about 20 minutes after 8 o'clock. So we still see some people in the street there, Rudabeh.
Yeah, still marching down. This is kind of what it looked like earlier this afternoon. Kind of what it looked like earlier in the afternoon. Then it looked like the crowd had completely dispersed. But Mike, now it looks like they're gathering again.
Yeah, this is at First and Grand. John was just showing us. They stopped briefly at the at a concert hall or a theater production, Mark Taper Hall, or Mark Taper Forum rather, which had to cancel their show tonight too.
Ooh, that's where the Amazon is.
Yes.
Also, there's a number, and the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion.
And the Mark Taper Forum was doing their adaptation of Hamlet that they had to cancel tonight because of the curfew. So that's yet another performance here as we continue to march down the street. John, you just told me where they were. Say it again. You're right in front of the Disney Concert Hall.
You know, it makes you wonder, and maybe you know the answer to this question or not. Did the city order them to do this, or did they take it upon themselves as businesses to, you know, comply and just say, well, we're going to cancel our performances?
As far as I can tell, it looks like these businesses took it upon themselves. I did ask very specifically the mayor's office to get a copy of the order, the curfew order, as well as the emergency order, which will give us some clarity on the fine, you know, kind of letter of the law about what is included in this order and who is required to follow it. I mean, basically what she said at the press conference, though, was unless you live in downtown LA or you're perhaps coming to or from work or you're a credentialed member of the press, that's pretty much the exceptions. You know, certainly critical, you know, employees that have to do business in downtown LA will be exempt from that as well. But it looks like these businesses are probably taking it upon themselves to, you know, cancel these performances and comply with the thing. The last thing you want, especially, you know, right here's a great point. I mean, you've got these protesters that are moving through the street. Yes, they're peaceful right now, but if you've got a concert hall full of people that are coming in and out of here or doing other things, that's going to certainly add to the chaos of things that LAPD will have to deal with when they eventually will come in here and handle these protesters.
Yeah, I wonder if they had performances over the previous nights and they, you know, went on with the venues, kept everything in place. You know, that's pretty, it is serious because you have some of the performers who are from out of town who come here and train and you know, have their rehearsals, and you go on with the performance that costs money, and people have to purchase tickets. So now they'll have to be, you know, make other arrangements. And I guess we'll have to see if nights after this are going to be canceled as well.
Yeah, there is another performance scheduled for tomorrow. Same at the same theater.
Definitely a disruption, and it is helpful to see this video from above from the chopper, because you can see from our reporters on the ground the situation changes so quickly. It looks like no one's there, but maybe they're around the corner. So we get a better perspective here from the helicopter, and of course we will continue to follow this throughout the night. We'll be right back. Okay, we're taking you back down to downtown Los Angeles, and looking from above, the curfew is in effect. However, we have seen a crowd marching. It's gathered. We saw just a few people here and there out and about. Looked like it had been cleared for the most part in the curfew area, and now it looks like the crowd is kind of growing as they join this march.
It looks like not only a procession of not only marchers, pedestrians, but also vehicles. That's what it looks like from here. And it just, you know, obviously, though, even if you're driving, you're not supposed to be in this area. So that brings up another question as to how police are actually going to get everybody out of the area, not just people on foot, but also, you know, cars. Because when that curfew takes effect, that's for everybody, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if you're in a car or not, but you have the cars on the right side of the screen are driving on the wrong side of the road too. So when you look at that, I mean, now you've got that issue that the law enforcement's gonna have to deal with as well if they're gonna come down here. We haven't seen anybody on the ground. Left side of your screen is LAPD transport buses and vans that are certainly being used to transport people. The LAPD helicopter is back over near that screen, the shot on the left there, which is back towards you know, the Civic Center area, Little Tokyo area. Where SkyCal is over almost into, they're on Grand Street. They're almost coming to come up on Crypto.com Arena. LA Live, that kind of area. We just passed the Walt Disney Concert Hall on Grand, and as far as we can tell here, we haven't seen any law enforcement. These guys are just kind of marching, and they've marched away from where that large contingency of officers was. And you see the cars both sides of the street, even driving the wrong way.
Maybe that's why they're going on both sides of the street, because of the people walking, and they can't necessarily get through, or they don't want to hit somebody.
Run them over, right.
Maybe they're trying to get out of there.
And the police have been making arrests. We saw many people being loaded up into these buses, going peacefully from what we saw. Tom Waite is on the ground there in downtown LA. Tom, has the scene changed near you?
Yeah, just in the past few seconds here, a number of buses pulled up, which appear to be buses that will carry people who would potentially be arrested. They just arrested a number of people and loaded them onto one of the white buses not far from where I'm standing. And yeah, it's kind of unclear where these are headed. But we'll see. I mean, this area was kind of really where a lot of stuff played out. A lot of chaotic activity was playing out, right when the curfew took effect. And there were a number of officers, that swarmed this area. And you can see a lot of them still on your screen that came here to make a number of arrests and disperse the crowd. Many of the people in the crowd did comply. They left and went off into different directions here. But this is kind of the main spot, right? Because we're right outside of the federal complex where the detention center is, right on the other side of the building here. And now you're looking live at some kind of convoy here of LAPD cruisers that are back here on the scene. And it's unclear, I think this is maybe sort of a staging area where they're carrying out some of their operations throughout the city, and perhaps bringing people and personnel back through this area. They have a number of police here just on every corner of we're Temple in Los Angeles, just to the east of City Hall. And, the people have just been, kind of out here protesting, and now there are a few stragglers, actually.
Yeah, right next to you, right? Waving flags.
They're watching these guys behind.
Yeah. I was just wondering. There's a guy. It's like, what are you doing? Are you just trying to tempt officers? And now I think they've seen him. I don't know. We're up above on a plaza though, so it would take a minute for him to get apprehended. Officers would have to come up on a wall or run up the street. So I don't know. How they would make their way up here. They're leaving now, so very smart of them. I don't think police are in any mood to mess around. And for people who were watching earlier, they were very intense about making sure we were credentialed to be here, and it was very matter of fact. It was no wiggle room, right? So they just wanted to make sure anyone who was out here was permitted to be so, and under the order that the mayor announced just a few hours ago. So this area where this is where all the protesters kind of gathered back. There was a march through the city earlier. Then they went all the way over to LA Live. Then they came all the way back here. They had a rally, and I got to say, very peaceful rally. Nobody. When I was here, I mean, there was a few moments where people were tossing stuff, but very, very peaceful. And it was just a total range of people, of backgrounds, ages. It was incredible to see, just because, I've been reporting at night, and I've seen a lot of violence, a lot of clashes, a lot of projectiles being thrown, police having to disperse people with tear gas. And I just want to reiterate, too, this is only going on in little corners of the city, little slivers. We've been reporting this all day, and all of all of us have been saying this. I just think it bears repeating. We don't want people to think that LA is burning down. It's not. There are little pockets of trouble here and there, but I have to say, today really was one of those moments where we saw a big group of people getting together, marching together, showing some solidarity, and really just kind of expressing themselves and making their feelings known in a way that was very appropriate. And it was good to see. It was encouraging, just having seen some of the uglier sides of these confrontations the past few nights.
It was also really, I'm going to say, refreshing to see. This was Lori's shot, Tom, an interfaith vigil that was taking place, and there were people there from all walks of life, all different faiths. That was pretty special, because you could tell that people of all different kinds of people were there with one purpose. And then we saw a member of the clergy walking down the street with his white robe, and you know, I mean, if you've been around for a while, that just brings you back to some of the protests that we have seen over the years. And I'm going to go all the way back to those civil rights marches, the Vietnam protests, where people, you know, oftentimes when you take away the violence and the emotion that gets people to be antagonistic, this was a way you saw people coming together. And that was pretty nice to see.
And right now we're looking at chopper video from above, and they are breaking the law because there's a curfew in effect right now. But other than that, it does seem peaceful. We're not seeing the tagging, the vandalism, the throwing things at law enforcement that we saw later in the night last night. It does appear to be peaceful from what we can see.
And you wonder, I mean, are they going to their cars? I know, Tom, where you are, I saw that sign that said mall, Los Angeles Mall, parking. I think I'm kind of familiar with that because for many years ago, I was on a jury in the federal courthouse and I parked in that lot.
So, that's a story I want to hear a little bit later.
So that's where I know where you are.
Parking garage is closed right now, Pat.
Yeah, if I recall, I think it closed at 6 p.m. every night. But there were a few of us, if we stayed later, that they were, you know, we were able to get out. But I was just asking that question because you wonder where some of these people are they exiting the area? You know?
Yeah, so that was the spot where there were a number of people they arrested right in that little entrance you're talking about, Pat. So I don't know. I think they've just shut that whole area down. And now I'm just curious because I'm a little distracted because there's a couple of guys here who are clearly not media and they're just kind of hanging out. And so I am just kind of waiting to see if police react to it. They seem to know, they're like aware of their you know, being
These
here. So I'm
right
just kind
here?
of waiting to see what's going to happen. I think there's a few people and that guy's okay. That guy. But one of them, he just looked very young. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm just kind of trying to figure out. You know, they checked our credentials a little earlier, and some of these folks were not here. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, getting the lay of the land. It's all very fluid as we've been seeing the last few nights. So you know, we're just trying to figure out. And here comes. Oh well, no, I'm not sure.
And we should be clear while you're talking about this, Tom. Sorry to interrupt you. While you're talking about this, the curfew does apply to everyone except the media who shows proper credentials, homeless people who live in the area, residents of the area, and then people who work in the area. So there are some people who are permitted to be there, but everyone else is not permitted to be there, including the people we're watching marching down the street, or that we just saw marching down the street on the right-hand side. And now there's clearly some activity going on.
Yeah, several vehicles. Hey, Tom, are those federal officers still out there?
You know what? I don't see them anymore, but I wonder if these vehicles that just left here, you know, like I said, this seems like kind of a staging area. They've got, all these CHP cruisers that now are, they're all going off in to the south. So I wonder where they are headed. If this is, you know, if they're heading this way to then come back around to confront some of the other folks that may not, you know, that are potentially violating the curfew. So we don't know exactly, but this definitely appears to be the kind of main staging area or one of the main staging areas. Obviously, there could be others, and I can only speak to what I'm seeing. But I have not seen any of those officers. In fact, none of them are out front of the federal building anymore. There may be a contingent of them right inside. I know there were earlier because some of them came out when the crowd started getting bigger, and they I think just wanted to show that, you know, that there was, you know, strength in numbers. They came out to kind of like make it clear, like, hey, we're out here. And so on. So, it's just a kind of it's not. I won't say tense out here. It's a little bit like there's a little bit of that, but it's not like before where, you know, even just a few hours ago, where you weren't sure when the curfew took effect. You know, where police going to just blast through and start making arrests. So right now, just it's sort of calm, but also very active. Pat and Drew Bay.
You know, probably kind of eerie, Tom. You know, a calm kind of eerie.
Very much.
Yeah, that's how it feels here.
Yep.
Okay, well, we're going to take more of our chopper shot, Tom, and talk to Mike for a minute. You know, I don't know if we have any way of knowing, Mike, but I would just, you know, common sense would tell you, like those businesses that were looted, I think on 6th Street, some of them,
Broadway.
I'm sure that law enforcement is also staged there, I would think, just to make sure that nothing like that happens
Well,
again.
especially the Adidas store that got hit twice, you know,
Yeah.
one night after night. This group right here you're looking at is at Main Street. They just turned northbound Main from 5th, and they are starting to walk through here. That was just, I was looking at them because they came down a one-way road and they were going wrong way on the one-way. So then you had cars that were trying to correctly use the road, which you see right there, which is happening if John tilts up just a little bit. So the group of cars here is actually with the protesters. You see them hanging flags out the window. And then you have the rest of traffic and people are throwing bottles there. Something just shattered. And that, let's see, yeah, that looked like it irritated the driver of that SUV there for a second. So I wasn't sure if there was going to be any kind of an encounter. But yeah, all of these cars that are coming down the street right there are all going the wrong way on 5th Street. So they're making a northbound turn onto Main, excuse me, and then they're going up. But it's obviously impacting traffic, and you've got some of those bicyclists there that are also holding traffic while their convoy of protesters moves through.
And, you know, we talk about why this curfew went into effect in the first place and some of the unrest we saw last night, including a car being set on fire. 22 businesses were vandalized last night, according to Mayor Bass in her press conference today. Graffiti everywhere. There are a lot of pictures we can't even show, even though we're doing our best not to show profanity and graffiti, but it's unavoidable in some places.
And at least, she said, at least $1 million in damage, and that was graffiti alone. That's just incredible.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it really is a lot. We're going to take a break here, and I almost thought that was a law enforcement vehicle. No, that's someone with the flag. Now, the other question, how do you stop motorists under curfew?
Right, and yeah, I mean, they could detain each one of them, tow the cars if they so chose, but it makes it harder when they're in cars because they can certainly get out of there a lot quicker.
Okay, well, we'll be right back. We're going to keep watching this, and we'll continue our coverage in a few minutes. All right, fear and uncertainty are spreading through many parts of Southern California.
Yes, reports and videos of ICE agents spotted near factories and in warehouses. They have many workers choosing not to show up. As KCAL's Jasmine Vila reports, some business owners say the agencies or the absences are putting a serious dent in production.
From the outside Tuesday, it appears to be business as usual in this industrial area of Vernon, southeast of downtown LA. But inside some of these warehouses, workers and company owners say it looks drastically different. Many people aren't showing up to work out of fear of ICE raids following the administration's directive to crack down on illegal immigration.
You have family?
I have family inside. It's terrible. It's a scare. Because a lot of family don't have paper.
This woman, who only wanted to be identified as Elizabeth, rushed to this meatpacking warehouse to check on friends when she saw cell phone video posted online of ICE agents allegedly at this address.
Text or say to the friends, I'm here to see it. I don't see anything.
The city of Vernon confirming Tuesday that no federal immigration enforcement action took place at this warehouse on Downey Road. Around the corner, Alex, a business owner who also wants to remain anonymous, says his employees saw ICE agents at 50th and Soto Monday. He says he had 15 workers call out Tuesday.
That's a 35%, and my productivity level goes down, and it's just bad for everything involved. I used to ship, let's say, 100 packages a day. I only ship 15, 20. So it's killing the business drastically. I'm sure it's for everybody who's in this area.
This is the cell phone video that was posted to social media Tuesday that fueled the fears and concerns among many of the industrial workers here in Vernon. It appears to show ICE agents inside of a warehouse's break room. But the CBS News confirmed team says this video is actually from a plant in Omaha, Nebraska.
This tells more people to stay home. More videos, they're not going to come to work.
Another operations manager at a warehouse here says 30 of his employees called out. And after days of anti-ICE protests in downtown LA and tensions running high, workers say they fear it will only get worse for many undocumented immigrants trying to make a living.
Everybody is scared.
In Vernon, Jasmine Veal, KCAL News.
Up north, hundreds of people protested the ICE raids in San Francisco. People were mostly focused outside the immigration court there. The protest lasted around an hour, and the court was closed off for the day just as a precaution. People who spoke said they are shaken by the ICE raids and say it is difficult on them.
Some folks might not show up to work today, and there's a lot of folks that count on us. We want to be able to provide for our families with dignity, but how do you expect us to do that if they're not respecting the work that we do and what we contribute?
Well, there were also protests over the weekend in San Francisco, where some 150 people were arrested.
Go back downtown now, where there is a growing crowd defying the curfew right now, breaking the law by being out there. We've seen a massive police presence, but we haven't seen them so far, Pat, confront any of these people who have been marching through downtown.
Yeah, and as Mike was telling us, that they were driving on the wrong side of the road at one point. So now we know that they are part of the protest. We saw people with flags hanging out of the cars, and we see this almost looks like a gathering of people on an intersection there, Mike.
Yeah, this is at 3rd and Spring. They're making a northbound turn onto Spring Street. Yeah, they just did a weird kind of I'm sorry. There was a car doing burnouts, which I was thinking donuts. Anyway, they moved through a parking lot from 4th Street, crossed through that parking lot onto 3rd Street, and then came out here at Spring. And so now they're going northbound on Spring with an LAPD helicopter following above them, kind of watching them. And yeah, I mean, you've got bicycles in there, you've got some motorcycles in there, you've got cars in there, electric skateboards. You've got a really big mix of kind of things that are going on down there. LAPD is well aware of it. I think this is and you see somebody tagging the building right there as this is all happening in the top left corner of your screen. So yeah, I mean, here we are. This is you know.
Oh yeah, right here.
Right, yeah, see him right there. I don't know exactly what that building is right there at 3rd and Spring. It may be a courthouse, but I'm not sure. And so they're continuing on northbound Spring Street here. LAPD has a helicopter overhead. They are well aware of where this group is. You know, one of the kind of, I don't call it problems, but difficulties facing law enforcement is that this group is very mobile. They've been going on, a while now. You see a line of law enforcement there on the left side of the screen, and as they continue to try to, deal with these people as they're well past curfew at this point.
Okay, yeah, we're getting moving around a little bit downtown.
You know what? I want to ask a dumb question. That at 3rd and Spring, is that in the curfew area?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it's right near 3rd and Spring is near where you kind of have like historic Broadway, that kind of area. So it's definitely within the curfew area.
Okay. See, if I don't have your map up there, then I'm not exactly sure, because we're talking about 1 square mile.
Yeah.
And we know once you get so far, you're going to be out of that area. And I'm wondering, do they know that as well?
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to go. I mean, you'd have to get into like Koreatown basically, or Boyle Heights, or South LA to get out of the curfew area.
Well, you had mentioned, and maybe we don't want to talk about this now, but we have heard, and it was almost inevitable, that there are going to be protests in different parts of Southern California.
Yeah.
And we've seen protests in Chicago. We've seen protests in New York. So it's just inevitable. Up north, of course, San Francisco, that it will be happening in other places. I'm just wondering, law enforcement obviously knows about this because I'm sure they monitor.
There are helicopters overhead too.
Okay. So they haven't really moved in to try to do anything about it because, again, how do you stop cars?
Yeah, right. And the protesters are working themselves back towards law enforcement. So they just might be waiting for them to kind of, turn themselves in really quick. And I think Adam was telling me Lori Perez is on the ground. Lori, where are you?
Yeah, so we're at 1st and Spring, and I just wanted to say, maybe they haven't moved in there, but they have certainly moved in here. Just moments ago, lots of lights and sirens. They rushed up here, they parked, and you can see the force of police officers who are now assembling on this corner. We're, again, at 1st and Spring, so they're headed right towards us. We're at the corner of the City Hall campus, along with all these police officers who are anticipating this crowd who is headed this way. So we'll see what happens. As they approach here, as you said, they are defying the law at this point, and as they continue to do so, they are risking, of course, being arrested. So we'll see if that happens once they get down here, or if it doesn't happen even before they get down here. But I can tell you, there are dozens of police officers here on this corner who are at the ready, waiting for that crowd that is headed this way. We have been huffing it, walking all around this city, trying to follow these protesters, but they are quick moving, and as soon as we get an idea of where they are, we try to rush over there, but they're on the move. So we're following them, we're trailing them, trying to get a perspective on what their plan is. Not that they necessarily have a coordinated plan, but certainly trying to follow their trail to see what they're up to as they continue to not comply with the curfew. These police officers, again, just got here seconds ago. We can see LAPD's helicopter with its searchlight overhead, tracking those protesters or those stragglers as they continue to stay out here on the streets of downtown Los Angeles. But other than that, I can tell you, as we've been making our way around the streets, it is empty otherwise. Very few people, which is the way that the mayor and city leaders and law enforcement wants it with that curfew in order. You might ever see, also once in a while, see a guy on a bike, but, he probably lives here, or who knows. But it's good to know that the streets are otherwise pretty empty, and not a lot of people out on the streets, except, I am just beginning to hear, I might be able to hear the crowd coming this way.
And, we talked to a sergeant from CHP earlier who talked about the training local and state law enforcement receives to deal with Los Angeles specifically, and with California specifically, in exactly these situations, because they can escalate so quickly. So there is a reason that they use this tactical response, that they exercise restraint when they have, that they're staged in certain areas, that they move in when they do, and they're familiar with these communities and with the geography and with protests, because they've done them here before. So we know that they've been talking. They have coordination among about 14 agencies locally and at the state level, and that they are planning all of this and have planned for it.
You know what? While we have Lori there, and Lori, you might know this answer to this question. I don't remember when during the 2020, the George Floyd protests, Did we have as many agencies together working to control the crowd?
You know, I was talking about that with someone last night as well, and I don't think we did. I mean, we certainly had, you know, multiple departments from around the county that came in to assist, but I mean, I don't remember there being as layered and as complex of a response as we have seen in this. And that might be lessons learned even from that experience. Maybe that they decided that that's the way to go. But yeah, it does seem more layered this time around than we saw in 2020. And you know, and to the point that Rudabeh was just talking about, you know, they are trained, and what are they doing? So now they're pulling back. So they might have just gotten word, right, that they need to go somewhere else. So they're going to load up, and we're going to see them
tagging a bus
on the move very shortly here. Yeah, they're packing it up, and they're going to go somewhere.
So Lori, really quick,
So
what
let's
we're
watch
looking
while
at
that
from
happens.
SkyCal too is they're passing a Metro bus, and they're tagging the Metro bus as it goes past. So the bus got caught up in this. You know, Metro had suspended some service, some rail service through downtown. Obviously, the buses are still moving through there, though, and you have all these people that are just getting kind of, you know, stuck in the chaos, if you will, as they're moving towards you. You hear them coming towards you a little bit more, Lori?
Yeah, I thought I did, in fact. Yeah, they're on the move now.
There they go.
And they are also, I will say, right behind another Metro bus. And I looked inside that Metro bus. There were maybe 2 or 3 people on it. So clearly word has spread about, you know, not being out and about.
It's such a coordinated
But I'm going to see
effort.
if these guys are going to take a left here. Yeah, they're taking a left up on Hill. So they're probably going to loop around, right? And then try and meet whatever is going down further down on Spring, maybe?
Yeah.
Did they leave Spring?
They're
Do we know that?
They're still going. They pushed down. I did hear LAPD helicopter request those units to go lights and sirens like you just saw going past Lori. And we're watching right now from SkyCal as more, looks like spray painting is going on right there, or somebody, you know, doing something to the front door of a business there. Yeah, they're tagging it. So that's exactly why the curfew's in effect. They're trying to prevent this from happening. And you see that guy shaking that can of paint in his hand there as he's continuing to move down. This is at 4th and Spring that the chopper is focused on, not far from where Lori is, and those LAPD officers starting to move in. You're talking about CHP coming in as well, so they've got a lot of the resources that we've been talking about coming through here. This is the group, though, as we are continuing to watch them just, you know, tag and tag and tag here as they go by. They tagged a Metro bus that was just stopped in the middle of the street. Lori said she saw another bus that had about, you know, 2 or 3 people on it, so thankfully not a very full bus. Hopefully a lot of people that, you know, are in the downtown area got the message that this is not the place to be tonight, and now we are seeing that play out here as we start to see more graffiti happening. LAPD, CHP, allied agencies, and here we are tagging another bus, or the same bus, actually. I think this is the same bus that got hit earlier by those other people that were walking by. So that's all happening, and again, they'll look at this. These buses have cameras. They'll try to use it later on to try to come back and identify these people that, you know, are responsible for tagging these buses. As we wrap up KCAL News at 9, we begin KCAL News at 10 with Susie Sa and Juan Fernandez.
And breaking news here on KCAL News at 10, a curfew in place, arrests happening right now, but some protesters refusing to leave tonight.
And that's despite a massive police presence on the streets of LA tonight. There it is. It is night 5 of the protests against immigration raids and sweeps in Southern California. And we have team coverage of the ongoing protests and the arrests and the fight to regain control of a 1 square mile area of the city near the federal building.
This is a live shot from SkyCal tonight. KCAL's Tom Waite, you've seen dozens of arrests already happening tonight. Tom, can you hear us?
And kind of, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Hello? Oh, okay. Hello. Okay. Well, I didn't know if you could hear us. So we're in front of the federal building, which much clearer now at the scene than it was just a few minutes ago. And police now zooming off, presumably to the area that Lori was talking about just a short time ago. But let's take you through some clips, to give you a sense of what's been happening over the last few hours. There's a number of issues that were happening right around curfew time, around 8 o'clock. That's when police really swarmed this area. They converged and broke up the crowd. There was some resistance from the crowd as the folks were dispersing, and there were a number of arrests that were made here just in the area in front of the federal complex. Remember, this is where the detention facility is, just behind the federal building. So that is kind of been an area of focus of protesters. By the way, very peaceful protesting throughout the afternoon and into the evening hours. People from all different backgrounds, faiths came out, and there was obviously a vigil as well. But it was beautiful to see a lot of different people from all ages and backgrounds really coming together in a peaceful way. And given what we've seen over the last couple of nights, a few nights, there's been a lot of violent confrontations and tear gassing and people throwing things at police officers and projectiles and all kinds of stuff. So at the end of today, obviously there was a bit of drama. There was some arrests made. There was even a police mounted unit was dealing with someone who threw something at them, and that was a little bit concerning. Obviously, very frightening for a second. We didn't know how the horse was going to react. Police raised their non-lethal, less than lethal weapons. Thankfully, they didn't have to use them, at least in this incident today. Right now, though, a column of LAPD cruisers zooming off to other parts of downtown, presumably to handle more situations. And I want to send it back to you because I know there is more action playing out in other parts of downtown right now.
All right, Tom Waite reporting there live from downtown LA on the ground there. Thank you so much. We're going to take you now to SkyCal. This is a view from a bird's eye view of what's happening right now in downtown LA. You can see the cars there blocking traffic there. A lot of these cars actually involved in the contingent of protesters who were marching through downtown LA against the curfew orders tonight. I want to go now to our Lori Perez, who's also live on the ground there in downtown LA for a different angle. Lori.
Yeah, we're at First and Spring Street. Last we heard, the protesters, the crowd was still marching down Spring Street to this corner, headed in our direction. And just moments ago, there was a force of police officers here. They, since then, went off lights and sirens to another location. But you can see there is still a line of police officers across the way here. Not as many as were just here, but still some. And LAPD's helicopter is overhead tracking the protesters. It's hard to tell from where we are if they are still on Spring Street or they've moved up to Hill Street. But we are certainly in the location where if they're still on Spring Street, they are probably heading our way. I will tell you, we have been mobile throughout this city for the last couple of hours trying to find the protesters. Oops. We're like these LAPD cars, except we're on foot. But much like them, we've been just all over these blocks in downtown Los Angeles trying to track where the crowd is going. And we have not seen, since the 8 o'clock curfew went into effect, we've seen fewer and fewer people on the streets, which is exactly what the mayor wants and what city leaders and law enforcement wants once they put that curfew in place because of the tremendous amount of graffiti. In fact, behind the line of police officers behind me, you can probably see an example of just how much graffiti there is on the buildings all throughout downtown Los Angeles. We did see two workers yesterday working diligently with tiny little tools, getting to work, trying to clean up some of that graffiti. And it's going to be a tremendous project throughout many blocks of downtown Los Angeles. But tonight, where we are at the moment is calm. But as we've been saying, that can change in a minute because, if that crowd of people who are defying the curfew order at this point, if they show up here any minute now, things could escalate because police have repeatedly been saying, if you're not off the streets, if you don't work here, if you don't live here, if you're not a member of the press, if you are on the streets, you could face arrest. And I know that over in Tom's location, situation. He has seen dozens of people arrest. We certainly have seen, you know, the LAPD, that big white bus passed by us, so we knew that they were starting to stage and get into a position where they could make arrests and start loading people up to take them away. So we're just kind of in a little bit of a waiting game right now, waiting situation at this point, waiting to see if that group doesn't indeed come in our direction.
Yeah, we do see some traffic in the area still moving through, Lori, and SkyCal is also showing us a group of officers on a corner, kind of peeking around the corner there, and also a long line of cruisers as well. Mike, any idea what might be happening there?
Well, you've got CHP that is certainly mobilizing. This is also an interesting group of people just sitting in the back of the truck there. I don't know what they're exactly up to here, but yeah, you've got CHP mobilizing. We are just listening to something, and we're going to try to move the helicopter over there, but about potentially an injured officer. We don't know how that happened, but it appears to be somewhere in the area of downtown, so we're working on gathering a few more details with that. And Kelly, I want to ask if we can put my computer in an inset box here, because I want to show you exactly the area under the curfew. So this is basically all of downtown LA, even extended over into kind of the Lincoln Heights area a little bit, and then up into Chinatown. All of that is under a curfew. And we talked about this earlier, but the Walt Disney Concert Hall, LA Phil, canceled their concert tonight. There was another adaptation of Hamlet that was canceled tonight at another theater in downtown LA because of this curfew. So you have the people that are still down there, still not necessarily wanting to go along with the program here, but everywhere inside of that red is within the curfew that started at 8 o'clock tonight, 2 hours and 6 minutes ago at this point. Now, I did ask the mayor's office for an exact copy of the order, of the curfew order, as well as the local emergency order that will give us a lot of clarity on exactly the specificities of who is allowed and who is not. Generally speaking, though, it is people that have legitimate business in the area, which would be anybody that lives there, as we look at a field force of CHP officers there on the sidewalk and a lot of cop cars there by CHP. But anybody that lives in the area, anybody that is going to and from work in the area, credentialed members of the press would be allowed, and that should be about it. So, you know, that's what they're, you know, who they're looking for. Is anybody else that doesn't fit that bill is subject to arrest, as we have seen, as you're looking at Pershing Square there on the top of the screen. But basically what's been kind of going on is law enforcement has now basically gotten a hold of the groups that were stationary. They've dealt with them, and now we're playing this kind of cat and mouse game where we're moving in these
with
groups
the taggers and the agitators that are still out there, right?
And they're continuing to just kind of move up and down the streets of LA, of downtown LA, and law enforcement is trying to reposition to be in place with them. They've got an LAPD helicopter overhead that is trying to deal with it as well. And eventually, you know, as we've seen night after night after night, whether or not, you know, it happens right away or it takes some time, eventually protesters make just the wrong move. They're able to get kettled by law enforcement, or what law enforcement has also been doing, and I've been listening to them talk on the radio, is every time you push the group, they start to splinter, right? And the groups get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then eventually they either dissipate or they're small enough to just kind of deal with them as they are. But so far, I mean, yes, we have had people that are non-compliant with what they are supposed to be doing, but we've not seen, this is the Walt Disney Concert Hall you're looking at on the left right there, we have not seen necessarily violence. I saw one firework. You know, we've seen tagging.
Very different from yesterday,
yeah,
right?
but nothing's on fire tonight. You know, the group is smaller tonight, so we'll see.
Based on what you just said too, Mike, if you had plans tomorrow to go to the Broad or the Japanese American Museum, the Walt Disney Concert Hall, Susie, or the Museum of Contemporary Art, maybe a good idea to change plans, because still this area is going to be very busy with protesters tomorrow.
Absolutely. The activity obviously expected to continue for days to come here, and the LAPD definitely ready for that. And, you know, we were talking about this area, Mike, you know, the 1 square mile that is under this curfew tonight in downtown LA, the entire downtown LA area under a curfew tonight. But really, you know, I think
I'm sorry, Suze, really quick. This is the injured officer. So they just pulled him out of the back of that patrol car. You see him kind of, you know, putting his weight on his two officers around him. So maybe a leg injury or something that is preventing him from, you know, from fully walking on his own. But you've got some unmarked units here that are probably just going to load him up. I mean, County General's not that far, so they'll probably run him over to the hospital. But he looks like he's conscious and alert, just, you know, limping or not able to walk on his own power.
Could have twisted an ankle or something, just walking around with his comrades there.
Well, and I want to point out that when these platoons move into different positions, they always run. Right, so even if there is a need to run or not, that's just how they deploy. They run, and so it's very easy to trip over something or lose your footing or something.
Pothole,
like that. Yeah,
all sorts.
Yeah, I mean, these officers have been here, you know, tirelessly trying to work to keep the peace in downtown LA. And as soon as this curfew went up, the LAPD showed up in downtown LA by the masses. I mean, we saw so many patrol cars out there, still out there tonight, making sure that these protesters clear the area. Just after that order went out at 8 o'clock, the curfew is in effect, again, from 8 o'clock tonight until 6 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as that happened, we saw the LAPD come in with their lights and sirens at times, trying to clear people out. But as we've been talking about, there are protesters still who have decided to remain in downtown LA, defying these curfew orders. And what you're watching here, we believe, is an officer who was injured in all of this. We don't know how and to what extent, but we do believe he is okay, as we saw him standing not too long ago, as Mike mentioned, putting his weight on 2 other officers as he was being loaded into the back of this SUV and presumably being taken to the hospital right now.
Yeah, but it's clear to say most of the protesters we saw earlier today have gone home. It's only a small group that still remained there in downtown Los Angeles defying this 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew.
Right, and that was at First and Grand where that officer was taken from. Looks like, this may be a fire station here that they're pulling up to. So they may just be, going to get checked out at the fire station and, kind of have those medics just take a look at him. And if he needs to go to the hospital, he will. But, it's probably easier for them to come to the fire station than it is for the fire department to try to get out in that mess and deal with all of that.
Let us know if you hear anything, Mike.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right, thanks.
Protests against these ICE raids continue also today in Orange County. Another round of clashes in Santa Ana. A flashpoint to the immigration protests, of course, the National Guard.
KCAL's Nicole Comstock live for us in Santa Ana. What does it look like out there for us, Nicole?
Well, for the most part, you guys, it's been a much more quiet and calm day here in Santa Ana. But now that it's nighttime out here, we do have quite a big gathering of people here at Bristol and McFadden. You can see that they're kind of just standing in the center of the street there. They have taken over parts of the parking lot for the gas station here, too, and the stores in this surrounding area. And, mostly what we see is just people gathered with flags out here with signs. Some fireworks, of course, you can hear those signs just expressing their frustrations with President Trump and his ICE raids. People are driving by honking out here. Again, we are hearing some of those mortar-style fireworks going off and then some of the firecrackers as well. But what we are not seeing at this location right now is we're not seeing police on the grounds. We were actually at the federal building about an hour ago, and we also didn't see many National Guard members there anymore either. So we're not certain if they moved to another location in Santa Ana, most of them, or if those National Guard members maybe went to another location. But for now, you can see these protesters kind of marching up the street here. And we're going to show you a bit of the scene that played out across the city today. Take a look. Quarreling between protesters in Santa Ana briefly hit a boiling point Tuesday, with people in the crowd screaming and shoving each other, at odds about the presence of National Guard members. Some say they're just here doing their jobs.
They cannot do anything.
I fought for the freedom of speech.
It was a far cry from the chaos that unfolded here Monday night, when a few people in the crowd threw powerful firecrackers and mortar-style fireworks directly at local police in the street. Police responded by launching tear gas and pepper spray rounds their way, slowly dispersing the crowd over several hours. The initial intention to protest federal immigration raids happening locally, overshadowed by those who came to cause trouble.
I just ask you, don't take the bait. They are trying to provoke us into making sure they paint us as being the villains, not the victims. We know we're here for our parents. We know we're here for working families and working people that are criminals.
Orange County leaders held a news conference to let the local immigrant community know they're supported and to condemn a militarized response to protests.
We're capable and we have the ability and the resources to be able to provide whatever necessary protection we have for our community.
The police chief who denounced the vandalism and violence last night said he would rather have his own police force de-escalating tensions in the community stemming from the raids. As cleanup crews work to repair the damage left behind, the National Guard continues to protect the federal building into the night, and police once again line up in riot gear for what could be another long night in the street. So it is looking like we might have another long night in the street out here. For the most part, what we're seeing in the crowd right now is a lot of really young people out here, again, just holding up their flags, driving by with flags hanging out of the windows of their cars. They just want people to honk for them. For the most part, and just show the community's support for the immigrant families here. Many of whom just say they're really terrified that they'll have their families ripped apart. What we haven't seen tonight is any vandalism so far. You know, last night we were seeing a lot of graffiti on buildings and small businesses, maybe some broken out windows in the city at a different protest, but we haven't seen any of that tonight. So it seems like people are really staying on message out here and listening to the words of city leaders today, of Orange County leaders who told people, you know, don't use violent tactics out here. It's not helping our cause. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Nicole Comstock live tonight in Santa Ana. Thank you so much. Well, meantime, immigration activity continuing across Southern California. This is actually new video of what happened today in a field in Oxnard. And tonight, we are actually speaking to the woman who shot this video.
Leslie Maring joining us now. Leslie, you spoke with the witness and the organization that says people have been swept up by ICE at a Southland car wash.
Yeah, and you know, we know that all this has been prompted by immigration and ICE arrests that have ramped up across Southern California since Friday. The Trump administration says the ICE arrests will continue for at least 30 days. And tonight, people tell us they fear to go out because of immigration sweeps taking place. This was a scene in Oxnard Tuesday morning. Federal officers seen chasing a man through an agricultural field. Mia captured it all on video.
He wasn't able to tell them anything. They just got him right there, right then.
She says the man was driving down Laguna Road when a Border Patrol vehicle attempted to stop him.
There was 2 Border Patrol trucks behind him, and they didn't have their lights on or anything. But then all of a sudden, like within like 5 seconds, they turned on their lights and they started chasing him.
She says the driver attempted to drive off, but quickly pulled over, taking off into the fields. Mia was originally going to pick up her sister from work, who she says is undocumented.
Our community is very scared. Everyone is just scared that they're going to be arrested for no reason.
The FBI confirmed they did help ICE with immigration enforcement in Ventura County today, but didn't offer details about the arrests. On Tuesday night, Governor Gavin Newsom addressing what he called mass deportations by the Trump administration.
Indiscriminately targeting hardworking immigrant families, regardless of their roots or risk.
Currently, we know that half a dozen car washes have been visited by what we believe is ICE.
We spoke to Flor Rodriguez, the executive director of the Clean Car Wash Workers Center, which advocates for workers' rights in the car wash industry. She says immigration officials have detained 25 workers and 1 customer since Friday.
I can tell you that they are family men. I can tell you that a lot of them are missing their kids' graduations right at this moment.
So far, Rodriguez says the organization has identified 16 of the workers detained. She says 2 were sent to detention centers in Texas.
The reason why we know they're there is because we've been able to use that locator system, not because the workers have been able to contact family or an attorney.
2 workers have contacted family, but only after she claims they were already deported.
Their families are heartbroken. Their families, their children are wondering why they weren't home to put them to bed from the moment they went missing.
And we are expected to hear from some of those families tomorrow during a press conference. Now, federal officials continue to say they are detaining and arresting people with criminal history. We did reach out to DHS to get more information on the immigration arrests in Ventura and these car washes, but we are still waiting to hear back. Susie Wan.
All right, Leslie, thank you so much. Want to go to a continuing breaking news coverage here in downtown Los Angeles.
Mike Rogers is at the desk now with this update for us, Mike.
Yeah, so here's an interesting kind of turn of events here. So this apartment building that you see right in the center of your screen here, the group of protesters that was being essentially shooed down the street by LAPD officers then ran into the apartment building. So the Los Angeles Police Department is now trying to get to the higher floors of this building because they say that the protesters ran in it. So you've got both sides that are blocked off by law enforcement. You see see the helicopter there from the LAPD that is circling with its night sun on. And a moment ago, we saw a group of officers enter the parking garage there at the ground level and kind of move through. So that's where this is at right now. And just adding another complicating factor to this, now that you've got a building involved here where this group has now potentially run inside of it. And we'll see the chopper going to push in here to a second, where you'll see that group of officers basically formed kind of a skirmish line right there in front of the parking garage entrance, where they believed they saw the suspects, or the group of protesters rather, run into the building. So they had talked about figuring out logistically, do we want to go search this whole building? What are we going to do here, and how are we going to handle this?
Well, hopefully somebody who lives there will let officers know where they went. Mike, I know several people who live downtown. These buildings are really secure. You can't just walk in. You need to be buzzed in. So for somebody to just make their way into this building without any invitation or without a door just being left open, it's kind of
right,
crazy,
unless they live
right?
there, right? Unless one of the people who were in that group lived there, actually, but who knows?
Yeah, and I did see, briefly when LAPD was getting there, so they went into the left side, in the entrance of the garage on the left side, and then a group of them did pop out on the right side of the building. So I don't know how many of them remain inside of the building, enough that the LAPD helicopter was trying to sort out whether or not they want to go floor by floor and conduct that kind of search. I would assume that would be a very daunting task. It's a big building, and so we'll see. I mean, for now, they're kind of just standing out here while they figure out their game plan and figure out how exactly they want to handle this.
All right, keep us posted on this, Mike. Thank you so much. And more breaking news tonight, this time in the Inland Empire. An evacuation order in effect just south of Apple Valley tonight as fire crews work to get the upper hand on the ranch fire. Evacuation orders tonight, the area from Milpas Drive to High Road south of Highway 18. And so far, more than 4,000 acres have burned.
And Leslie, closer us here. Evacuation notices and warnings have been lifted in Burbank tonight after a brush fire broke out in the hills above Burbank. Forward progress of the Bethany fire has been stopped at 8 acres. That's some great news there. Fire crews will continue to monitor the area throughout the night. No word yet on what sparked the flames. All right, time now for next weather.
Yeah, we've been dealing with June gloom in the morning, but these beautiful temperatures in the afternoon, Danny.
I know. And today was one of those days. I mean, we saw the sunshine out there, and I know for some folks, as we're seeing these fires popping up, we have been dealing with elevated fire danger. That's been the case for our inland communities. I mean, look at these temperatures. Lancaster, 104, San Bernardino, 93, Burbank, 82 degrees. And with that, a little bit of wind that's been picking up as well. So an elevated risk for these grass fires that we're seeing. Downtown Los Angeles, low 80s, upper 60s in Newport Beach. And because of that marine layer, we've been seeing this crazy difference between our beaches and our inland communities. So going into tomorrow, the June gloom is back, you guys. We're waking up to mostly cloudy skies, 70s by 11 o'clock, low 80s by the time we get to the afternoon. And then valleys peaking in the lower 90s, mid 90s in the IE. So tomorrow is another toasty day, above average, 102 in the high deserts, but some cooling by the end of the week. We'll talk cooling and another warm up for Father's Day weekend. That's coming up in your next weather.
All right, Danny, thank you so much.
All right, back down to ground shots there. Downtown Los Angeles, as an overnight curfew is in effect right now till 6 a.m. This all started at 8 p.m. tonight. And right around 8 p.m., Susie, we did see those LAPD units move in through the area near the Federal Building and quickly cleared out a large group of protesters that had been there for most of the afternoon.
Yeah, we're going to have more coverage on this after a short break. Stay with us.
Back to breaking news here, focused on downtown Los Angeles here. Ground shots from the downtown LA area where a curfew is still in effect till 6 a.m. in the morning. You can see here what looks like members of the press walking through our shot there. But for the most part, Susie, it looks like the streets are clear. Traffic is moving along the road there.
Yeah, but on another side of downtown LA, as you're seeing here, a huge police presence for the LAPD. As Mike Rogers on the desk was telling us, we do believe a group of protesters or people who were left over from the protests, at least, and defying this curfew that went into effect at 8 o'clock tonight, went into this building as you see them staged in front of that building. We believe they went actually into that parking garage, Mike. Is that what was happening? They went into the garage, and you saw another group coming out the other side.
And a lot more police officers have shown up there, Mike.
Yeah, I remember last time we talked, they said, I don't know what they're going to do with this because it's going to be a logistical nightmare. Well, they found the logistics to do it. They brought in the sheriff's response team, the SRT. That was the one you saw with the, we've seen them in the past with the trucks with the yellow coils on top. So those guys were there. They've brought in a significant more units from LAPD as well here. So it does sound like they want to go into that building and make sure that that group, which the airship is pretty confident is still inside. So the airship's pretty confident that that group is in there. So they're going to go through and they're going to do kind of a systematic search for that group. I'm not sure. I see that police helicopter that's kind of got its spotlight shining down over here near Pershing Square. So not exactly sure what that police helicopter is looking for. But there is the building right there as we continue to monitor this situation here on KCAL News at 10.
We'll be right back. Back to our breaking news coverage right now in downtown LA here on KCAL News at 10. A huge LAPD presence in front of this apartment building in downtown LA.
That's right. That is where we believe protesters somehow on their way out of this area made their way inside the building. As our Mike Rogers was telling us, the aerial units have a good sense that they're still inside that unit, somehow making their way into the parking garage and somewhere in the building. Of course, a lot of places to hide, Mike. Stairwells, hallways, rooftops, parking garages. They're there.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, Juan, we can hope that this building, which looks to be a newer building, is equipped with, even in my building, even if you're in the stairwell, each door you have to have a key fob access to get in through each of those doors. So hopefully the group has accidentally locked themselves into an area here that will be quick for law enforcement to be able to get to. But you've got the LAPD right there, you've got Sheriff's Department on the other side of the building, and then CHP on the other side of that building. So if these guys come out, they will be met by law enforcement. And now LAPD is working on strategically deciding how they're going to go into that building and search it. A couple seconds ago, I did see some people that appear to live in that building that are obviously kind of figuring out all right, something's going on here as we're, watching all of this. They've got the helicopters, they've got, law enforcement down there as well. So there goes a line of CHP cruisers. And I don't know that I have ever seen so many law enforcement police cars in one location. I mean, it has been just kind of incredible to see how many police officers have been down here.
They're so well organized this time around, Mike, and we're going to keep monitoring the situation there from downtown Los Angeles to see if and when the protesters or agitators, whoever they were, who made their way into this building. As you can see there, Susie, they're using their night sun as well to kind of see if they're somehow hiding on the rooftop as well.
That's right. We'll keep an eye on our situation here in downtown LA. Meanwhile, we want to take you down now to Orange County, where protests got pretty heated in Santa Ana today as well.
Let's go back to Nicole Comstock for an update. Nicole?
Yeah, you guys, there still are quite a few people out here protesting in Santa Ana tonight. Lots of families, lots of really young people. Currently, they are on the move, but we will give you a look behind us here right as they're lighting off a firework, apparently. But there's still people gathered here at this 7-Eleven parking lot at Bristol and McFadden. What we've seen so far really is just a lot of people out here gathered with flags, driving down the street, trying to get honks from people, signs expressing their frustrations with President Trump and his ICE raids. No vandalism so far that we've seen tonight, very unlike last night when we saw different groups of people throwing fireworks and firecrackers at police. We actually don't see police out here right now, so we're not sure if they're in a different part of the city or if they're just kind of letting people do their thing tonight because no one's really messing with anything or vandalizing any property out here. Lots of people showing their support for immigrant families. Lots of people, you can hear I'm driving by honking right now, just think that these ICE raids have been carried out in an arbitrary way. They say they don't think they're just specifically targeting violent criminal immigrants like the Trump administration originally said, but they say they're also detaining people who pay taxes and run businesses and have families here. They think that's unfair, and they think there's got to be a better way to do this so that, after those people are detained maybe for questioning and get a court date, there's a way to streamline the process for them. So if they're doing everything in good faith, they have a path to U.S. citizenship here. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Doesn't look like they've blocked off any streets, have they?
Not right now. About an hour ago, they had McFadden and Bristol blocked off, but they really just stayed in the road for like 5 minutes, and then they did this huge march up the street in a caravan of cars. Lots of young people in the crowd tonight and families as well.
All right. Well, let's hope it stays that way. All right, Nicole Comstock reporting live for us from Santa Ana. Thank you for that update. Meantime, these are the first photos we've seen of the California National Guard involved in ICE sweeps in Southern California. ICE tweeted these pictures of agents detaining people in LA with the National Guard standing guard. Governor Newsom is trying to stop all this, accusing President Trump of, quote, behaving like a tyrant.
Well, today, the state filed this request for a temporary restraining order to block the use of the California National Guard in immigration enforcement.
A federal judge denied that request for an emergency restraining order, but the judge did set a hearing for Thursday afternoon. The state says it does not oppose using California National Guard members to protect federal buildings, but it does not want the soldiers used for ICE raids and immigration enforcement.
The president has been engaged in an unlawful power grab. He has tried to seize authority he does not have. He cannot lawfully deploy the National Guard to Los Angeles, period, full stop. The statute.
Well, speaking at Fort Bragg, North Carolina today, President Trump accused Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass of paying the protesters to trash LA.
They paid
troublemakers, agitators, and insurrectionists. They're engaged in this willful attempt to nullify federal law and aid the occupation of the city by criminal invaders.
Well, in addition to calling in 4,000 members of the California National Guard, the Trump administration also deployed 700 Marines from 29 Palms. SkyCal spotted them today setting up camp at the Joint Forces Training Base in Los Alamitos. There they are. California Congressman Ted Lieu, who represents the West Side from Santa Monica to Ranchos Palos Verdes, reacted today to the deployment of the Marines. It is still unclear exactly what the Marines will be doing here in LA and what their rules of engagement will be.
And back to downtown LA tonight, where this has been a 5th day of protest of the immigration raids that have happened since Friday. And what you're looking at is a picture of downtown LA under a curfew since 8 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. The LAPD showing their presence tonight and clearing the crowds that were out here. We do have our eye on one last group of protesters inside a building. We want to go to Mike Rogers for an update on that.
So really quickly, I was just listening to the radio. They got a hold of security. The security said no, they already left. They escaped out of a back door.
Really?
LAPD backing off now.
All right.
Nice to hear.
Okay, so it looks like all the protesters have cleared downtown LA as far as we know, but we are going to keep an eye on this situation, and we're going to have meteorologist Danny Roberti with weather just on the other side of a break. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. I am grateful to get you ready for your Wednesday. Today
It was a warm day, but a crazy difference between our beaches and also our deserts. 37-degree difference. Newport Beach hitting 68 degrees, 105 in Lancaster. So we're going to see another hot day inland going into our Wednesday, and not so hot at the coast. And that's all because we're dealing with more June gloom clouds. We're back in this pattern of June gloom, and then we're slightly cooler Thursday going into Friday before another warm up going into the weekend, a big weekend, Father's Day weekend. So let's talk timing of clouds going into our Wednesday morning. You can see the clouds, they're rolling and pushing into the valleys, those green specks indicating some sprinkles, some drizzle popping up. But we're going to see those clouds clearing away pretty quickly. High pressure is building in, and this is squashing that marine layer. So you can see sunshine by 10 o'clock in the valleys, but we're still seeing those clouds hugging the coast, hugging our beaches by around 10 o'clock. And we're going to see very slow clearing there going into the afternoon. But I do think we're going to get some clearing, some sunshine in the afternoon later in the day for our beaches. Tomorrow morning, we're dropping down to the 60s in the Inland Empire. Not a whole lot of clouds tomorrow. Low 60s to start the day. 9 o'clock will be in the low 70s, mid 80s by noon. And yes, we're back in the 90s. So it's going to be another warm day above average. Not as hot as today, though. 99 in Lancaster, 92 in Santa Clarita, San Bernardino, a whopping 95 degrees. Lower 80s in downtown Los Angeles, and our beaches are looking at 60s and 70s because of those marine layer clouds. So Thursday and Friday, there's that cooling. Well, pretty steady for Los Angeles and Orange counties. You'll see more cooling further inland. So in the valleys, we'll go from the low 90s Wednesday, upper 80s Thursday, mid 80s Friday, and then boom, another spike in temperatures for Father's Day, lower 90s. In the Inland Empire, lower 90s for Thursday, Friday. Warming starts again on Saturday. Look at Sunday for Father's Day. It's going to be toasty, sunny, dry, upper 90s in the IE. Our high deserts are going to be in the triple digits this weekend, 80s in the mountains, and our beaches, morning clouds, afternoon sunshine in the mid 70s this weekend. Susie and Juan.
All right, looking good, Danny. Thank you so much. And thanks for watching KCAL News at 10.
Our breaking news protest coverage continues at 11 on CBS over on Channel 2. Meantime, let's throw things over now to Jamie Maggio for Sports Center.
Guys, this is very exciting. Sports Central is coming up, and we have got the latest on when Shohei Ohtani will make his Dodgers pitching debut and why it may be sooner than originally expected. Plus, how things went south tonight against San Diego, resulting in Kike Hernandez taking the mound in relief for the boys in blue.
You're watching Sports Central on KCAL Los Angeles, sponsored by Morongo Casino Resort and Spa.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a Tuesday night edition of Sports Central. I am Jamie Maggio. We are going to begin with Shohei Ohtani, who could be joining the Dodgers pitching rotation sooner than expected. Manager Dave Roberts says that there's a, quote, north of zero chance that Ohtani will pitch before the All-Star break. Shohei tossed 3 simulated innings before tonight's game at Petco Park. He's now expected to make his Dodgers pitching debut in July instead of August. If Ohtani does not homer, it's tied for his longest drought of the season. And he didn't do it. Shohei went 1 for 3 with a single. He hasn't gone deep in over a week. Now, Freddie Freeman might homer on this pitch in the first, but Jackson Merrill going back on it, leaps to make the rob at the wall. The Dodgers only had 6 hits all night. Third inning, 2-0 Padres. Merrill lashes a shot down the right field line. Manny Machado scores from first on the triple, and the Dodgers left pitcher Metzauer in the game even though he was getting rocked. It's now 7-0. Xavier Bogaerts singles to drive in 2 more. Sauer gave up 13 hits, 9 earned runs, but Dave Roberts brought none other than Kike Hernandez into pitch in the 6th inning. That is unheard of. He got the last out of the 6th, but in the 7th, Machado takes him off the wall and left. Kike threw 2 1/3 innings to finish the game. The Dodgers lose an ugly one, 11-1. Well, the Halos were in action tonight. Nolan Schanuel and Ron Washington had to give some props to the A's' Denzel Clark. If you didn't see it last night, he might have had the catch of the year. Nobody could believe that. Unbelievable. Well, tonight the Halos were looking to make it 2 in a row against the A's. Trailing 1-0 in the 8th until Travis d'Arnaud goes yard. Clark can't track that one down. We're all tied at 1. And this one did go to extras. Schanuel at the plate with the winning run on third. And he comes up clutch right at Clark, believe it or not. Schanuel's fired up because it is a walk-off for the Halos. Yes, they will look for the series sweep tomorrow. 2-1 the final score there. All right, let's go to football now. NFL Comeback Player of the Year finalist J.K. Dobbins has agreed to a 1-year deal to join the Denver Broncos. Now, Dobbins is coming off a career season with the Chargers, rushing for 905 yards and 9 touchdowns in 13 games. The Chargers kicked off mandatory minicamp today at the Bolton El Segundo as the franchise enters year 2 under head coach Jim Harbaugh, coming off an 11-win regular season, but a first-round playoff exit. Harbaugh has implemented a new tradition for his squad that involves adding special patches to players' practice jerseys.
I like a resume, it kind of reminds me like a general, has different patches. So any playoff appearance, if they're captain, it's on there. If they have any NFL record or Charger record, or the important awards.
At the end of the day, we all professional. This is a professional league, but when you kind of keep us connected and get a little bragging rights in the locker room, I mean, it's good. And guys want to compete for their jersey to look like that too. So it's a lot of fun.
It is fun. I like it. Well, the Rams said goodbye to franchise legend Cooper Kupp this offseason, but they brought in 6-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Devontae Adams. The 3-time first-team All-Pro signed a 2-year deal this offseason and talked today about what made the Rams such an attractive destination for him.
Got a really good quarterback in here. Got a really good young team that shows a lot of promise and was obviously really close to being able to have a chance at the whole thing last year. So just knowing how hungry this team is and seeing the work that they're still putting in after having a year like last year, it just kind of confirms that I'm in the right place.
Well, a bit of drama for U.S. soccer after midfielder Christian Pulisic requested to be left off the Gold Cup roster after playing over 3,500 minutes for AC Milan this past season. A former U.S. men's national team star, Landon Donovan, criticized Pulisic and other players for not playing in the tournament. Pulisic's dad shot back at Donovan. He said, quote, "Look in the mirror," referring to Donovan's own sabbatical from soccer back in 2012. Well, let's stay with the men's national team. U.S. taking on Switzerland in a friendly. And right from the jump, the Stars and Stripes defense had serious issues. The Swiss getting on the board in the 13th minute, and again just 10 minutes later. Look at this. And it's 2-0 Switzerland. And spoiler alert, it didn't get any better. Even off U.S. saves, the Swiss were finding the back of the net. This one was a laugher, but Team USA didn't find it so funny. They gave up 4 first-half goals. Not the send-off they were hoping for. 4-0, the final score. Well, the FIFA Club World Cup is coming to LA in just a few weeks with 6 games at the Rose Bowl. You can scan the QR code there on your screen for ticket information. All 6 games, including those with PSG and Inter Milan. The games kick off here starting June 15th. Now, speaking of PSG, the UEFA Champions League winners arrived in Los Angeles late this evening. The champions of Europe will face Atletico Madrid in their FIFA Club World Cup opener on Sunday afternoon at the Rose Bowl.
Unique competition, new competition, and we're happy to be here, and now it's moment to rest. It was great to be champions of Europe first time in our club, and now it's time to compete and try to get the World Cup.
All right, guys, well, still to come, youth sports participation in California is on the decline, but former Laker Derek Fisher is trying to help change that. Well, participation in youth sports is on the decline, and here in California, organizations and lawmakers have teamed up to figure out why. The result is AB 749. It's a new bill that would be the first step towards creating a statewide commission to oversee youth sports in California. But at what cost? Well, I spoke to people on both sides of the bill, including former Lakers star Derek Fisher.
We know the socioeconomic boundaries that exist. We know that people of color and youth of color are being hit really hard in this area. But how can we repurpose our efforts and our energies to create more access?
What is AB 749 pushing? What are we proposing with this bill?
Just inherently in the name of the bill, in AB 749, it's the Youth Sports Act for All. It's a small investment into creating a Blue Ribbon Commission, a group of people smarter than me, that will study and do research and create credible findings on like what actually is going on. Why are these declines and decreases happening?
We envision a department or a commission of youth sports. The government has no formal role right now over youth sports, and which is an important factor that needs to be addressed. And so we think AB 749 is a right step to create a framework at what role the state has. So we have over 50 organizations from across the state, from the Dodgers to the Rams, to the local YMCA, to Positive Coaching Line, to Nike, all saying yes to youth sports for all.
Opposing points to AB 749 include the funding needed for the bill, while California is dealing with a deficit over $12 billion.
We're cutting services like in-home healthcare services to the disabled. Priority-wise, I think people that are in a condition that needs services every day outweigh what we're looking at here in this particular bill. And this is going to increase costs.
The added regulations and costs a new statewide commission would bring are also a cause for concern among the opposition.
Philanthropy is a great thing in this country, and many of the sponsors are great examples of that. Why can't we continue to rely on philanthropy because it's less restrictive, and I think it's doing a fantastic job.
Well, the Senate hearing is scheduled for June 25th, so we'll see how it goes.
Not far.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
Pat
so
Ruby.
much, Jamie. And tonight at 11, officers on horseback move through downtown LA as a curfew takes effect amid protests.
And officers start making arrests. We're live with a much calmer night in downtown LA so far. That's all minutes away on Channel 2.
We'll see you at 11. Right now on KCAL News, breaking news, a curfew in effect for parts of downtown LA on night 5 of protests against ICE raids.
And bringing in buses to arrest those refusing to leave.
Some people not obeying the law, and about an hour ago, SkyCal caught some people tagging a Metro bus.
Here's a look at where things stand right now.
And Mike, can you tell us what we are looking at here?
Yeah, we are looking at a mostly cleared out downtown LA. There's a couple of things that I want to show you here, and I'm asking SkyCal to specifically look at this location because what has started to happen is LAPD is using plainclothes officers to go pick out some of the more problematic people that are within the crowd. The crowd is very thin. It's just a couple of people really running around downtown. So what we have seen twice in two different situations is an LAPD unmarked car comes up and a plainclothes officer gets out and starts chasing these people. I want to take you to another helicopter shot. This is on 3rd Street. That's where this is also happening. One of these people was accused of shining a laser at a police helicopter that had been trying to track him down, but every time the larger group of officers in the skirmish line get close to him, he takes off. So what they did in this situation as well is they brought in plainclothes officers. You see him with the baseball cap there on, and they got up close to him in that unmarked car. The suspect, not expecting law enforcement to be in the unmarked car, got out, chased him down the street. There was quite the foot pursuit into this location here until they finally were able to push him up against the wall there and have taken him into custody. So LAPD using the big skirmish lines that we've talked about, but they're also starting to get more precise and using plainclothes officers driving that truck right there to take the people into custody that are causing most of the problems that are a little bit more tricky for those skirmish lines to get.
All right, that's a smart way to go.
Yeah.
Very strategic. Okay, Mike. Well, let's get right to KCAL News reporter Tom Wade. Tom, you've been going across downtown LA all night, and the encouraging news is that it's getting hard for you to find an area that's busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, we're having to move around a bit here because we have some people that keep coming up behind us. But you can still hear a lot of police sirens. It's a bit chaotic out here. You probably can see behind me some police officers guarding City Hall. Still a lot of police activity. You can see they are still, moving through the city, possibly as a tactic to just make sure that people are not on the streets as this curfew is in effect. They may not even be responding to a call for service, perhaps they are, or this is just a show of force, a technique to make sure that people are gone. But let's take you to the scene this evening at the Federal Building. This is where a lot of the action has been going down the past few days. This is where the Federal Detention Center is, where people have been taken as they've been rounded up in these immigration operation sweeps. You can see a number of people were arrested. You'll also see what was a mounted unit, police on horseback that were dealing with people throwing things at them. There were some tense moments there in front of the Federal Building when the curfew went into effect. Some of the crowd did not leave and disperse when they were supposed to. They were very peaceful, though. There was a march earlier in the evening, also very peaceful. And another reminder, too, this is only in a few little slivers and pockets of downtown LA. This is not the entire city that's under siege. It's just some sections of the city where some of the protests got out of hand, and you saw some of those arrests playing out, some of the tensions exploding and escalations there, but nothing too serious tonight, which is obviously great news. As Pat said right off the top, things are much more peaceful tonight. People are off the streets. They're not the clashes that we saw the last couple of nights with police and protesters, exchanging fire, whether that's non-lethal, less than lethal, responses from police as protesters were firing fireworks into crowds of police officers. That was last night. What a difference 24 hours makes. It is much different out there tonight. Police have the area much more locked down, but again, very peaceful earlier today as hundreds of people marched through downtown LA. They started out near the Federal Building and then marched all the way down to LA Live. People from all different backgrounds coming together. It was a very sort of unifying looking experience for people. There was young people, old people. It was certainly a very different scene playing out than we have seen in the days prior. But good news tonight, it looks like things are very quiet. Reporting live just outside of City Hall in downtown LA, I'm Tom Waite, KCAL News.
Tom, thank you. And our coverage continues now with Lori Perez. She is also in downtown LA.
And Lori, you've seen the curfew enforcement tonight and arrests as well.
That's correct. We've been seeing that as we have been hiking across the city. We are so far from where we parked our news van, but we've been doing our best trying to get you the best perspective of the crowd that has been continuing to defy the law and try to evade police. We're here. This is the area near the building that police were keeping an eye on, where they thought some of the stragglers had run into. And, just to let you know how fluid of the situation is, not 10, 15 minutes ago, this street was filled with LAPD vehicles. And they have since left. But I want to show you across the street, if I can. I think I'm hearing some video, but if we could come back live so I can show you something live. Here across the street and this building, they have boarded up in front of the windows. And I think that was a preventative move because they were seeing how much destruction and damage there was in other buildings throughout downtown Los Angeles. So this looks to have been a proactive move to try and avoid some damage at this apartment building here where we are at Hill in between 4th and 5th Street. But, throughout the night, we have, of course, been trying to track and follow the stragglers as they were, again, evading the police in defiance of the law. We did see people getting arrested. We did see police trying to traverse this city and keep an eye on everybody that was still on the streets. It has been a very long night and a long few days, of course, for law enforcement and for the protesters as well during the day, and then what has devolved during the night. But so far tonight, much calmer, as Tom was saying, much calmer than the last few nights that we have been out here, which is, of course, great news. For now, I'll send it back to you guys.
Lori, thank you. And immigration activity continues across Southern California.
In fact, KCAL's Leslie Marin in the newsroom now. Leslie, you spoke to an organization that says people have been swept up by ICE at Southland car washes.
Yeah, and Pat Rudabay, we know what has prompted all of these protester immigration and ICE arrests that have ramped up all across Southern California since Friday. The Trump administration said the ICE arrests will continue for at least 30 days here. And tonight, people tell us they fear to go out because of the immigration sweeps taking place.
This was a scene in Oxnard Tuesday morning. Federal officers seen chasing a man through an agricultural field. Mia captured it all on video.
He wasn't able to tell them anything. They just got him right there, right then.
She says the man was driving down Laguna Road when a Border Patrol vehicle attempted to stop him.
There was 2 Border Patrol trucks behind him, and they didn't have their lights on or anything. But then all of a sudden, within 5 seconds, they turned on their lights and they started chasing him.
She says the driver attempted to drive off, but quickly pulled over, taking off into the fields. Mia was originally going to pick up her sister from work, who she says is undocumented.
Our community is very scared. Everyone is just scared that they're going to be arrested for no reason.
The FBI confirmed they did help ICE with immigration enforcement in Ventura County today, but didn't offer details about the arrests. On Tuesday night, Governor Gavin Newsom addressing what he called mass deportations by the Trump administration.
Indiscriminately targeting hardworking immigrant families, regardless of their roots or risk.
Currently, we know that a half a dozen car washes have been visited by what we believe is ICE.
We spoke to Flor Rodriguez, the executive director of the Clean Car Wash Workers Center, which advocates for workers' rights in the car wash industry. She says immigration officials have detained 25 workers and 1 customer since Friday.
I can tell you that they are family men. I can tell you that a lot of them are missing their kids' graduations right at this moment.
So far, Rodriguez says the organization has identified 16 of the workers detained. She says 2 were sent to detention centers in Texas.
The reason why we know they're there is because we've been able to use that locator system, not because the workers have been able to contact family or an attorney.
2 workers have contacted family, but only after she claims they were already deported.
Their families are heartbroken. Their families, their children are wondering why they weren't home to put them to bed from the moment they went missing.
We're expected to hear from some of those families tomorrow during a press conference. Federal officials continue to say they are detaining and arresting people with criminal history. Now, we did reach out to the Department of Homeland Security to get more information on the immigration arrests in Ventura and these car washes, but we are still waiting to hear back. Pat?
All right. Thanks so much, Leslie. And now let's take another live look at downtown LA. We will bring you any updates as this curfew is now in effect. Also tonight, 2 separate brush fires burning in Burbank and the IE.
In the Inland Empire, an evacuation order remains in effect just south of Apple Valley as fire crews work to get the upper hand on the ranch fire. The area from Milpas Drive to High Road south of Highway 18 under that evacuation order. 4,200 acres have burned.
And in Burbank, evacuation notices and warnings have been lifted after a brush fire broke out in the hills above Burbank. Forward progress of the Bethany fire has been stopped at 8 acres. Fire crews will continue to monitor the area through the night, and it is believed the fire began behind someone's home.
A mother claims she was punched in the face by a person LAUSD had on campus to protect kids and parents.
And this person has a questionable past that some school police say is alarming. Senior reporter Ross Palumbo is here. He has the story that you'd only see on KCAL News.
Well, Pat and Rudabeh, our investigation has found that this worker has a criminal past and even got some jail time. But even so, we also found that she was still working on a campus until she allegedly punched a mother in the face twice right in front of her children. LAUSD refuses to talk about it, but now that mother is speaking out.
I came to your car? Yes, you did.
A surprise strike.
Dude, stop.
Startling a parent.
Painful to watch. Yes, you did.
Stunning officers.
Huge. I think that's a crime.
What is wrong with you?
Shocking this boss.
Right there is grounds for termination.
And once again, shaking up the debate.
So you continue to pretend that nothing is happening there.
Over police defunding and LAUSD's school safety.
And it's really hard. You know, I just want justice. Never had issues.
The injustice.
Until that Monday.
She says began in March when she went to pick up her 11-year-old son after hours at a magnet school bus stop just outside of Manual Arts High School. With him in the back and with her other 2-year-old sitting right next to him. She tries to pull out, but this black SUV then backs up, caught here on the school's own surveillance system, trying, she says, to block her in.
Kind of knew like, oh, she's going to do something, so I'm recording. And she is here, blocking.
After blocking, she says the driver then barrels straight towards her window.
Yes? You want to keep recording me? Why did you back up your car? Because you're recording because me. You are about to hit me. Did I come to you? Did I come to your car and talk to you? You did talk to me. That was days ago. No, I have you on camera. I already told you. That was days ago. Did I come to your car today? Yes, you did. I did? He had to back you up and then... I came to your car? Yes, you did. Yeah. Dude, stop. What is wrong with you?
And here's the view from the silent surveillance video when we match it to the audio from the mother's cell phone.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Dude, stop. She punched me and scratched my face. I'm just in disbelief that someone that works at school with children, you know, is capable of doing that. Dude, stop!
And for parent Elizabeth Funes Lara, aside from her slight bruising and scratch, the school, her children, and their safety are her primary issues.
So he's in the back seat.
He's in the back seat. And he's just very scared, like, oh, he's just shocked. All that screaming, for him, it was traumatizing. I try not to cry because I don't want to scare them, but I don't think they should be witnessing someone hitting them. Dude, stop! What is wrong with you?
What do you think?
That's horrible. Just imagine that's your wife.
School Police Union President Gil Gamez says his officers used to patrol that school.
If that was one of your officers, do you think that ever would have happened?
One of our officers would have been in prison for doing that.
But since the board defunded the department.
I'm not supportive of the ability of schools to be able to opt in to have a police presence on campus.
Cutting its budget nearly 20% and its officers by 33%. They've pushed police off campuses while putting more of these private community groups on campuses with a program called Safe Passage.
So they show up and they're doing security.
Yes.
For these schools now.
Yes.
In place of police.
Yes.
Is that safe for kids? Is it safe for parents?
They moved the police officers out of the way. They moved everybody out of the way, and they gave these security guard companies full access to the student on and off campus without any training, without any mentorship, for sure without a police officer next to them. and they don't know how to handle things. And some of these individuals are formerly incarcerated individuals. One individual came to a board meeting.
That's this man who is working with high school kids.
I am also a formerly incarcerated man of 21 years of a 30-to-life sentence.
And like this woman who confronted the parent.
I came to your car? Yes, you did.
That court records show also got jail time for violating her probation after a forgery conviction back in 2018.
Is that in itself disqualifying?
I don't see how LA Unified would even hire her, and she should not be in a coveted position like a security personnel around a child's school with a record like that.
Do you think LAPD would ever hire someone with a criminal history?
No.
Do you think LASD would ever hire anyone with a criminal history? Would LAUSD police ever hire someone with a criminal history? But yet you say the school employs people with criminal histories as subcontractors. But it's ethically wrong.
Wrong and ineffective, he says, when it comes to fighting campus crime. This school year, we've seen incidents involving guns on campuses, fights and stabbings. But LAUSD's data shows overall violent crimes were down compared to last year, but the number of rapes and aggravated assaults on campus were up.
Is it really safe passage?
Not at all.
Is that a fair criticism?
The district now pays Keith Linton more than $500,000 a year, he says, for his 60 employees servicing about 25,000 kids at 20 schools.
You want this part to be down here.
All using his on-campus community program that we've highlighted in the past called Boys to Gentlemen.
My employees, they provide safe passage.
And in fact, this was his employee caught here on camera.
You've seen this video?
I've seen the video, and I've seen the video also at the school.
So what was her excuse to you? What did she say?
She said that she didn't punch the parent, and I didn't believe that.
How could something like that happen?
Something like that shouldn't happen.
What should happen now?
What should happen now is what we did. That employee was terminated. That employee will never have a chance with LAUSD. And what we've done is we've revved up our training.
As a former LAPD officer, he says he does train all of his employees and does background checks, but nothing, he says, came back on this woman. Now she's facing battery charges with a warrant out for her arrest after missing this first court date.
Warrant is issued. Bail $20,000.
There should be no employee on any campus that works for me that does what that employee did.
But there was.
And there was.
And how do you know that there isn't another situation like that brewing?
I can't tell you today that out of my north of 60 employees, that tomorrow there's not going to be an incident with a kid or a verbal exchange with a parent. But I can tell you that as a leader, I'm out here 20 hours a day, and I'm at every school.
Should parents still trust you? Should parents still trust this entire community system?
Yes, I believe parents should go to my website and not look at what happened at this one school.
Yes, you did.
And she punches.
But this mother is still left looking at her recording, reliving her memories.
It's traumatizing. I'm just like, it's like I'm living it again.
And wondering what she and every parent are still driving into.
When you go to pick him up today, is it in your mind?
Yes, I think about it so much.
Schools have contract workers from about 30 different agencies, and they're all working for something called Safe Passage. Now, despite mandatory background checks, it's still unclear who gets through and why.
Yeah, and I think we just lost your mic. So we do want to make sure that people heard what you said. So she did hire a lawyer in part, she says, to protect other kids and parents. 77 schools, right, have contract workers from about 30 different companies doing Safe Passage. And despite mandatory background checks, it's still unclear who gets through and why. And Ross, you did reach out to the superintendent for answers, but he wouldn't talk about it. Since the incident, LAUSD now says they've issued new guidance, but didn't say exactly what that guidance is.
The district also claims school police are now fully staffed, but the union says that's flat out wrong, according to Ross, and that the number of officers on patrol is actually still down by more than 50%.
That's right.
You can read LAUSD's full statement and see the other story that we've done on Boys to Gentlemen. Is that the one I did?
That's the right. You did that story, Pat.
All right, that's at kcalnews.com.
Okay, thanks for stepping in there. Sorry about the technical trouble.
Want to make sure everyone gets the information.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ross.
It's a really good report. Very fair report, too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's get a check of your next weather forecast now.
And Danny, the heat is going to stick around.
Yeah, it sure is. We're going to feel it out there, girls, again going into tomorrow. But we're going to see a crazy big difference again between our inland communities and our beach communities. 94 tomorrow in San Bernardino, 70 in Laguna Beach. So a 20 to 25 degree difference. So let's get you and your family prepared for your Wednesday. It's going to be another toasty day for our inland friends. Not so hot at the coast, and that's because we're going to see more June gloom clouds rolling on in late tonight. We're already starting to see that right now. And then slight cooling is going to start up on Thursday. That's going to take us into Friday before another warm up going into the weekend. Let's jump right to the weekend because you guys, this is a big weekend. We are celebrating all of our fathers for Father's Day on Sunday. And look at this warming trend. So Saturday, we're going to be in the lower 80s, morning clouds, afternoon sunshine. And by Sunday, mid 80s, but we're talking 90s in the Inland Empire. And I'll show you that in our 7-day forecast in just a moment. But let's talk about tomorrow morning. The clouds, they're rolling back in, pushing into the valleys as high pressure builds in. It's really squashing that marine layer for us. It still pushes into the valleys, but these clouds, they clear away a lot quicker than the past couple of days. So by 10:15, we're already looking at bright sunshine in the IE, in the San Fernando Valley, but clouds are still hugging the beaches at this point. Even some drizzles possible out there first thing in the morning, a little bit misty. And then I do think once we get to the afternoon, we're going to see some sunshine even for our beach communities. Now tomorrow morning, cloudy to start, 60s for the beaches, 60s for downtown Los Angeles, lower 60s in San Bernardino. We're mostly cloudy to start the day in Burbank, mid 60s by 8 o'clock, but look at how we clear and warm up tomorrow as high pressure builds in. Tomorrow is going to feel like today. Highs in the low 80s in Burbank. We're close to the triple digits in Lancaster, so it's not quite as hot in the high deserts, but still warm for this time of year. 95 in San Bernardino. So we're still dealing with those hot temperatures in Santa Clarita, 92. Lower 80s in downtown Los Angeles. And our beaches will be in the 60s and the 70s. So let's check in on the next 7 days. Los Angeles and Orange counties. We stay in the low 80s, so things stay steady the rest of the week. And there's warming for Saturday and Sunday. In the valleys, 90 Wednesday. Upper 80s Thursday. Slight cooling just by a few degrees. And then another warm up this weekend for Father's Day. We're going to be in the lower 90s. In the Inland Empire, low 90s for Thursday, Friday. High pressure gets pushed out of the way. And then we'll see another warm up this weekend, close to 100 on Sunday. Deserts 100, mountains 80s, and beaches are going to be in the mid 70s. So over the next couple days, things are looking real good.
That sounds good. Woo. Thanks, Danny. Yeah. Still ahead here, heavy police activity as a curfew remains in effect in downtown LA. Our breaking news coverage continues in just minutes.
Action and frustration in response to the mess left behind from local protests.
Amid the violence and the chaos, we are happy to say communities did come together to clean up historic landmarks, as you see there, that were damaged during the protests in downtown LA.
A group spent the day cleaning the walls of the Japanese American National Museum in Little Tokyo. Some of them took part in the protests over the last few days, but condemned the violence and vandalism.
And still ahead, a curfew remains in effect in downtown LA as protests calm down. Our coverage continues in just minutes.
And the violent clashes spreading to other cities tonight.
Protests against ICE raids have spread to other cities, including New York City, after a peaceful rally. It took a violent turn, and dozens of people were taken into custody.
And more protests in Chicago. Police have clashed with protesters at certain points, arresting several people. At one point, a car sped through a crowd, narrowly missing demonstrators, but people kept marching on, zigzagging throughout the city.
And Santa Ana is another SoCal city that has seen violent protests at times.
Protesters say they are angry over the National Guard's presence there. A large crowd marched up on the street tonight, mostly staying away from violence and destruction, but lots of flags and fireworks tonight. This was a far cry from the chaos last night when huge firecrackers and mortar-style fireworks were thrown at police, who responded with tear gas and pepper spray.
Why they cannot do anything.
I fought for the freedom of speech.
We're capable and we have the ability and the resources to be able to provide whatever necessary protection we have for our community.
I just ask you, don't take the bait. They are trying to provoke us into making sure they paint us as being the villains, not the victims.
As a precaution, police are lined up in the streets in riot gear again. Now, our curfew in effect in downtown LA. Our breaking news coverage just minutes away. All right, we leave you tonight with the live look from SkyCal over downtown LA. Much calmer tonight, right?
Yeah, and Mike has been on this from the very beginning, day 5 now, Mike.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Ruta Bay and Pat and I was just remarking to John, our photographer, as we look live from SkyCal here, you can see the streets are pretty empty. John and I were remarking how it looked like most people in downtown LA have taken the curfew seriously. As John kind of moves around here, you see that a lot of the streets are empty. There is a contingency of police officers that is moving through on motorcycles as well, just kind of patrolling the streets. Now, certainly we have seen a couple of people here and there, but most people are just coming and going maybe from their homes or leaving work or what have you. But for the most part, it does appear that people in downtown LA have listened to that curfew that was put into effect tonight, and the LAPD has moved in and gotten rid of all of the people that were not following that curfew order. The last few bit of stragglers we saw that were unwilling to kind of do it on their own ended up getting picked off by some of the plainclothes officers that were driving those unmarked police vehicles, able to get there without being noticed by those suspects and then being taken into custody. So quiet in downtown right now.
Okay, Mike, and you know what? Hopefully we can keep those officers for a long time.
Yeah.
At least I think Mayor Bass said 30 days.
Well, and we just want calm in our city. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are streaming 24/7 on CBS News Los Angeles.
Have a good evening, everyone.